Hey, hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Truth. It's your girl, Naya Angel, coming through with my homies for life and co-host, Mr. PAT and E-Man.
What up? What up?
What's
Fellas?
good out there, listeners? What's good
Yo.
out there? What's good?
Oh man, we got some great topics to discuss this week, fellas. I cannot wait to dive into all our listeners and supporters out there. We want to thank you so much for all of your great feedback and support. If you haven't already, please head over to that YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love. We need those subscriptions. So let's go ahead and hit that subscribe button, folks. And before we dive in this week, we have our guy E-Man who has something he wants to say. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Naya Angel. I really appreciate it. So before we start, I just want to put this out on the record before, anybody loses their mind and whatnot. But I'm just letting everybody know I still don't got no beef with Ben Affleck. I just had to make sure we start off on a really good foot and a really good note. I ain't got no beef with Ben. Seems like Ben looks like he's pretty happy with J-Lo right now again. But, I just want to make sure I put that out there. They ain't got no beef with Ben Affleck. But I got to give a shout out to Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder for agreeing with my same idea that, that role was given to him. And he shouldn't have played Batman. That's all I wanted to say. I got to chalk up, 1-0 for me. 0 for Ben Affleck, but let's get started. I'm ready to get this in. Let's go.
Yikes. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. So let's dive into our first topic, fellas, which is actually one that is really, really interesting. I'm glad that we are talking about this because as a lot of our listeners out there know, we are super nerds and super proud about it here at The Good, the Bad, and the Truth. Okay.
Yes.
We are self-proclaimed super nerds and we love it. Okay. But we have an awesome topic to discuss this week, and it's what frustrates Black nerds about nerd culture or the perception of nerd culture. So in other words, we're about to start talking about what it's like to be a Black nerd. So if you don't mind, fellas, I'm going to go ahead and start us off and just kind of give my thoughts on this. So to the question, what frustrates Black nerds? I just think from a female perspective, so this is both Black and a Black female perspective, that is so interesting that people are so shocked about how much we know as women. It's like, dude, do you understand that I was that little girl that was in the house watching wrestling when my friends were outside, like getting ready to play with baby dolls or etc. I have lots of male cousins. Even without that, my sister, my brother, we were all into wrestling, all into cartoons, all into comic books when we were younger. So this is not like a fad that I picked up a few years ago because I met some guy and he was into it.
Quick question, Angel. Quick question. Sure. Did you stone cold stunner like any of your brothers and cousins and whatnot?
Listen, we were wrestling all the time, much to the chagrin of my mom.
Oh, so someone got the people's elbow and the rock bottom. That's what I'm.
My mom was like, oh my goodness, why are my daughters also wrestling with my son? Because my brother was the only boy, but that didn't matter because me and my sister were wrestling with him. We would do all kinds of wrestling moves on the bed. I mean, we would pretend every week we would do different wrestling matches and we would be different people. And I was always either China, Trish Stratus, or The Rock.
Someone got a satisfaction out there.
Oh my goodness, those were my people. Okay, I was really, really big into it. And okay, so y'all remember? I'm sure y'all remember DX, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Come
of
on.
And so
course,
This is
of
y'all
course.
Generation
remember how
X.
they used to come out and they used to like put their exes against their crotch and be like,
Yep, like suck it.
Suck it.
and me and my sister, okay, little girls were right there with my brother doing that every single time. So, like, this is legitimate for me. Like, those of you who don't know, like, I collect comic books and superhero items.
She got a good collection, by the way. Just letting everybody know out there.
Ooh, oh my gosh, thank you so much, E-Man. Like I really like get super excited if I'm like in a store or something and I come across something that I don't have. Like I almost always buy it. Like always. And my most prized possession, I know this is a little off topic, but I found a first edition, first session Wonder Woman comic book. The
That's really hard
first
to find.
comic book.
I heard that's really
Okay.
hard to
And
find.
like, I love it. Like, it is in its own special area in my collectibles area in the house. But I digress. Anyway, I said all that to say it's just so interesting to me that even in 2021, I'm still periodically having these conversations where I have to explain how I became a Black woman who's into quote unquote nerd culture, right? Into comics, into wrestling, into those kind of things. And it's like, really? Like I didn't realize that, nerd culture was owned by white people or just Black men. It's really ridiculous,
Yeah,
right?
It
there's some
is ridiculous.
sexism in there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's a whole
It's
lot. That's a whole
definitely a
lot.
lot more
Nepotism.
sexism than people realize, right? Because it's one thing to be a Black nerd in of itself. When you're a Black nerd woman, it's like you almost have to go an extra mile to prove that you really are into what you are, right? Because I'll find myself into conversations and we could be talking about something that I know to be like a comic book art, and someone's like, oh, what did you just Google that? And I'm like, dude, you have no idea. I own comic books. Like, I own comic books, bro. I'm not talking about going online and looking it up. I'm saying I have a collection of comic books in my collectible items. Okay. I have a
That's
whole
right.
cabinet and
That's
closet
true.
for
It,
them.
I'm
So,
not gonna lie. That is 100% true and whatnot. 100%. So yeah,
yeah, so I would say for me, the thing that frustrates me the most is the fact that you would think with a subject that should be uniting folks because we have a common ground, that there's still that issue of sexism within this community. And it's unfortunate because it's like, why do I have to prove as a woman to my fellow, Black nerds that my knowledge is just as credible as theirs, right? That's not something that I should have to face in general, but certainly in a community where we face all of these other, forms of discrimination and etc. This should be a safe space. So I would say
Mhm.
for me,
I
that's the
agree.
area, yeah, it's for me, that's the area that frustrates me the most. And I think, you know, things are definitely changing. There are a lot of different forums now for Black nerds specifically that did not, always exist. There are Facebook groups, multiple of them. I'm in a few of them.
That's actually
And
true. There's a
yeah,
there's a whole lot
this
of Facebook groups for everything. I ain't gonna lie.
exactly right. And so I'm happy about that because like growing up, especially where we grew up, it just wasn't common for a Black girl to be into comic books or cartoons or wrestling or any of those kind of things. So I constantly felt like I was in between two worlds. I had to be like the stereotypical Black girl to a certain extent in order to fit in with certain friends. And then with other friends, it was like, oh, I had to prove that I actually was a nerd because it's like, no, I know you are, to this extent, you have this friends, you're on the step team, and you know what I'm saying? So it was just from a perspective of growing up and some of the same struggles from that perspective that I still face today as far as proving my nerdiness as a Black woman. That kind of sucks. But I will say that I am happy that there are much more comfortable spaces for Black people to, be a nerd, quote unquote, and, just really take enjoyment in those activities and, can conversate and or converse, and just have these cool forums to talk about things and etc. in an open space and in a free space. So for that, I'm really, really appreciative and happy. And I think overall, I would say that I think where we are in 2021 with the different subjects that are uniting us as a community, I'm really, really happy that there's such a large community of nerds because things are changing from so many perspectives. High school, it's cool to be a nerd now. You know what I mean? Whereas back in the day,
that is so. I'm so sorry to cut you off, Night
No,
Angel,
you're fine.
but that is so true. I'm not even gonna lie. It seems now we reverted back to the 80s. So now this whole nerd stuff, now it makes it seem like it's so cool.
Right.
And it's so crazy.
Right. And when we were growing up, especially where we grew up, you fellas know, like, that could get you joned on. And for
I ain't gonna lie, I got joned on a lot because I knew I was
right. Me too. I remember. Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. And just us growing up here, like, I was a nerd. Like, I'm not even going front. Like, I was a nerd. And the thing about me, I used to hide my nerdness because I was afraid everyone finding out I was an actual nerd.
Right. Same here. You had to like hide some of it. Like, I mean, people knew that I was a nerd, but I had to like dumb it down or kind of like water it down.
Right.
Because, you're just afraid to get made fun of. You're afraid to get joned on.
Exactly.
Afraid of getting clowned. So, yeah.
I mean, I got joned on a lot, but like, it was just something. I think it became with the territory and whatnot. So I don't know. I mean, it made me hide my nerdness until I got older. And now I've learned now how to accept that, damn it, I'm a nerd. And I'm like...
and proud.
Now. Like, I'm not even going to lie no more. Like, I'm an actual nerd. Proud. Like, I do nerdy shit.
Right, exactly. I'm super proud and I'm happy about the forums that are available to us now. So just to wrap it up from my point of view, I would say what frustrates me the most is the still having to deal with sexism to a certain extent. But at the same time, I'm super excited and super happy about the forums that are available to us as Black nerds. And I'm excited to be in a new wave of excitement about being a nerd. So that's my perspective on
You gotta let me know about those Facebook groups because I'm trying to
I would definitely, because Pat and I are in at least one together I know of, and I would definitely I'm actually an admin in that group, and I will definitely send you an invite to that as well. And there are a few of them, so I'll definitely send some of those out. But yeah, it's great. There are so many different subjects that are discussed, and it's a lot of fun. Every day there's like some new subject that so many people engage and discuss. So definitely we'll send you that invite, man. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it, fellas. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw it to Mr. PAT to give his thoughts on it. What say you, sir?
All right. What a topic. This topic right here, I actually got this from one of those Facebook groups that myself and Naya is in. And I just thought it was an interesting topic. Because it basically said what frustrates Black nerds about nerd culture or the perception of nerd culture. So I automatically jumped in like, oh man, let me, let me put my 2 cents in there. So basically to put my 2 cents in this podcast, the things that frustrate me about nerd culture, and I wouldn't say frustrate, because I mean, a lot of things don't really faze me like that. You know, I already know that with cultures, just any culture, whether it's nerd culture, you know, hip hop culture, it could even be like sports, just anything with like fans, anything with a huge fandom. There's always going to be a toxicity. There's always going to be, you know, things that frustrate people about that particular culture. So I know that that's there, but I guess the things that irk me, I would say, about nerd culture are definitely gatekeepers. And gatekeepers is something that I actually saw a lot of. A lot of people posted that in the forum on Facebook. I saw a lot of people say gatekeepers. And for those who don't know, gatekeepers basically means people who try to act like an authority or on anything nerd related. People who are elitists and try to dictate to others who is or isn't a true fan of something. So that's a gatekeeper, and definitely gates annoy me.
I mean, all gatekeepers can eat a dick. I don't even get
they can definitely eat a dick. But yeah, definitely gatekeepers. They're definitely, you know, real annoying. Just I think in any culture, it doesn't even have to be just nerd culture. But since we're on the subject of nerd culture, definitely gatekeepers. You know, for example, I remember back in college, one of my roommates, and he's a good friend of mine. You know, we were definitely tight back then. He was a nerd also, but he damn near wanted to like revoke my quote unquote nerd card because at the time I had never seen Star Wars. So when he heard that I'd never seen Star Wars, like any of the movies, he just went crazy.
Whoa. So sorry to cut you off, you know, but I respect everyone who loves Star Wars. Star Wars is not my thing, and I don't disrespect. It's not my thing. But I don't disrespect
Star Wars.
Hey, I know Nia Angel loves Star Wars.
Yeah, I know Nia loves it.
I know she loved it to death. So I still love her regardless. But I ain't gonna disrespect, you know, somebody who don't love something.
Right. And look, I told my man, I was like, look, dude, like when I was growing up, like just being real, like niggas was not into Star Wars. Like, like that's not
facts.
That's facts.
We was not talking about Star Wars like growing up. Like that was just something I like at the time, like I grew up in New York, like because I'm talking elementary school. So I grew up in New York and I'm living in a predominantly Black area. And, you know, of course, most of my friends, 90% of my friends are Black. So Star Wars never, ever came into the conversation. You know, we like X-Men, you know, we like Spider-Man. You know, we was into comics, really. We was into, you know, Marvel, DC, of course, that's Batman, you know, so.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we was into that. But Star Wars, nah, we wasn't fucking with Star Wars. Like, I know I definitely wasn't fucking with Star Wars. And like, you know, I just never got around to seeing it. Like, I just never had an interest. But at the same time,
that's with me too.
You know, at the same time, I was familiar with, you know, the characters and their names and, you know, even, I guess, some of the storylines. But I had just never sat down and watched the movie. But anyway, so he basically was like, oh, man, you can't be a real nerd until you see Star Wars and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, man, like, but we did sit down and watch it. And then he asked me what I thought, because we sat down and watched the first one. And I was like, man, it's all right, but I just can't see myself really getting into it. Like, you know, I was like, it's fine,
which is fine.
And it's one of those things that really isn't for everyone. Like, some people are like, okay, you're either a Star Wars fan or you're a Star Trek fan. And then sometimes people are neither. So it's like, it's not for everyone. That's
right, exactly. And that's what I was trying to tell him. Like,
Star Trek was okay.
I'm though. Like, there's certain things that I like. Like, for example, he wasn't really into comics. He wasn't into, like, you know, Marvel, DC. Like, he didn't know anything about that stuff. But at the same time, I wasn't like trying to gatekeep. I wasn't like a gatekeeper to the nerd culture. Like, oh man, you're not a real nerd because you know, you don't know about Spider-Man or whoever, you know. So yeah, so basically that's an example of gatekeeping. So that's definitely something that's pretty annoying, you know. And then also people who don't watch like Dragon Ball Z or anything like that, you know, it's like, come on.
Right.
I mean,
So
that's
wait,
my favorite
are
anime.
y'all
I ain't
fans
gonna
of
lie.
Dragon Ball Z though?
I'm not really into it.
I
But
like it. That's my favorite
I
anime.
like it too.
I've seen it here and there. But it's not something I've really got into heavy like that. But I mean, I could definitely see myself getting more into that than Star Wars. I'll say that much.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure at some point in time I probably will dive more into it. But yeah, I even had somebody else tell me, "Oh man, you don't like Dragon Ball Z?" But I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
Nah. I'm gonna tell everybody like this, man. My Dragon Ball Z is my all-time favorite anime, but I would say one of the best animes that I would say I would really enjoy and play it back to back is Yu-Gi-Oh! And whatnot. A lot of people don't even know what that is.
Oh my God, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, sir, like Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah, I remember Yu-Gi-Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh is my shit. I don't even get
used
it. Like, I'm not even gonna lie.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
I was trying to really get into the card game, but that's the same thing. I couldn't get into the card game, even with like Pokemon and whatnot. Pokemon was dope.
Yeah, I used to watch that joint. I remember Cass was definitely into Pokemon. I remember.
And see, I was more into Yu-Gi-Oh than Pokemon because like Yu-Gi-Oh was kind of like the advanced version, like the more mature version of Pokemon. It felt like, because it was still dealing with like monsters and powers or whatever, but it was more so like towards the anime side of it, whereas Pokemon felt like it was more geared towards like children, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh felt like it was more geared towards like teenagers, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, because the characters were like teens. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Here comes the crazy thing about Pokemon and whatnot. So the guy who created Pokemon was actually a bug collector and whatnot. He was a bug collector.
I'm sorry.
If you notice all the Pokemon, don't they all look a little bit like bugs and whatnot?
Right.
So it's very interesting when I found that out. When I first was watching Pokemon, when and I think Pokemon came out when I was in middle school, and I was like, it kind of makes sense, you know. But just see how a bug collector created one of like the dopest, you know, animes, and now he expanded that thing so far where he got he made 3 movies like in the movie theater, and I find that's dope as shit. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, since we're on the subject of anime real quick, so here's my thing with anime. I actually do like anime, but I like, for example, an anime version of something that I already like. For example, I know there's an anime version of X-Men. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that one. Because they actually were doing it was Japanese anime. They were doing some Japanese anime versions of like Iron Man. There's one of Wolverine.
Really?
Yeah. I think I wanna say it played on
There's a lot.
I want to say it was on Cartoon Network at some point, or what? It was on one of the major channels. I
think it was on Cartoon. Cartoon Network. That sounds about right. If it was in the 90s.
But these animes actually came out like in the, I want to say the early maybe mid 2000s, like 2010s, somewhere around that time. But anyway, so I like Japanese anime versions of things that I already like. Like I already mentioned the X-Men one, which was actually a series, and it's on DVD. But I love that because the thing about anime is I like the style. It's like a more sleeker style, the way they're illustrated. See, I'm a nerd where like I like the artistry of you know, the animation, because I'm an artist myself.
That makes sense.
I'm always looking at.
Yes, I was going to say that makes sense for you because you're an artist.
Right, exactly. So I'm always looking at the details and like, you know, just how they're designed and how they move and like their costumes. I'm looking at all those details. So that's what I like about anime, and particularly Japanese anime, because of how they illustrate the characters. Another one that I like right now, I'm kind of watching it here and there when I have time, but they have a Godzilla series on Netflix, and it's in Japanese anime, and
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and I mean it's a little bit on the slower side, but just looking at it, I'm just like, man, I like the way this shit looks. You know, it has nice graphics and everything. So yeah, I do fuck with anime in that way. But
you need to actually see the Japanese anime of Dragon Ball Z. That joint is like, it's crazy.
Yeah, the original. So there's different versions of Dragon Ball of Dragon Ball Z, because Dragon Ball Z started off as Dragon Ball, which is the story of Goku when he was like a little boy. Right. And then Dragon Ball Z, it evolves to him being older and etc. And then you have like Dragon Ball Z Evolution and etc. But like Dragon Ball Z is definitely one of my favorite animes. I would probably say my favorite second to this anime called Death Note. And
I've heard of Death Note.
Yeah, Death Note and Devilman Crybaby are my favorite animes. Like those three.
My man's into Death Note. Like
man,
I'm talking about like he into it. Like he into it.
So listen, I know we like really got like really far off the main topic, but like the thing about Death Note is that it is more than just like your typical anime where you have like your antagonist and protagonist and you're trying to, you know what I'm saying? There's just like good and evil. This is a case of like, of serious detective and intellect, and it's just different. This is an intellectual anime, right? If you're an intellectual, you are really going to love Death Note because it is a game back and forth. And I don't want to say too much for those who haven't seen it or if you two are going to check it out, but there is not.
I might check it out.
Listen, you will love every single episode of that anime. Like it is definitely that good. Just throwing that out there.
That's what's up. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. But just to, I guess, get this thing back on track, because I know we got other topics to discuss.
Right.
So the things I don't, I guess, don't like, but I guess the things that irk me about nerd culture or the perception of nerd culture. So another one would be racist nerds / trolls. And I mean that's self-explanatory for the most part. You know,
we have racist nerds out here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You come on, man. Lord. You already know,
man.
It's racist of every type of
of every type. Yeah, I mean, definitely some suspected white supremacists in the nerd culture. I mean, because speaking of forums, going back to forums, I mean, there's other forums that I'm part of on social media. And, you know, of course, there's the black nerd one. And then there's like the general ones where it's like everybody of every race. So I see a lot of, you know, some of the white nerds in there talking shit. Like I see them saying some racist shit. And I don't even respond. Like I really don't even say much in a lot of these forums because the last thing I want to do is get into a back and forth. You know, and it's like it's just a waste of my time. So I just read the comments and kind of just laugh and keep scrolling, you know. But yeah, it's definitely out there. The racist nerds / trolls, they're definitely out there. You know, they're the ones who complain about you know, any race swapping that goes on.
I think that's what it is.
You know, or like what they call quote unquote shoehorning. That takes place with like comic books and superhero movies and TV shows. You know, they're basically the ones who feel that they own all of the intellectual property out there simply because a lot of the mainstream stuff was created by white people and white companies. These types right here are basically like the MAGA of nerd culture, you know, because we know Make America Great Again is code speak for Make America White Again.
Ooh, speak that truth, sir.
So the racist nerds / trolls, they just want to try to keep everything mainstream nerd culture. And basically they want to keep mainstream nerd culture as white as possible. So, you know, just being real, that's another element. Man. You know, that's another element of nerd culture that is, I mean, it's a joke, honestly. you know, I don't really take these people seriously. But I would say that's something that I guess irks me a little bit because I'm just like, all right, you know,
I'm
it's
glad
like
I'm not
you
even
can't
in
escape
these groups.
racism.
I can't deal with stupidness. I just can't.
Unfortunately, that's part of like every culture.
Right. I was
You
going to
know,
say that's everywhere, unfortunately.
you know, it's like in every corner. And this is though one of those corners where, you know, racism is in there. It's just it's, you know, one of the elements in there, unfortunately, one of the toxic elements in there. So yeah, that, and then speaking of racist nerds / trolls, so another thing that irks me about nerd culture is the black nerds who seek validation from said racist nerds / trolls. And I'm talking
Dear
about,
goodness.
yeah, I'm talking about the black people who partake in nerd culture and try hard to seek acceptance and validation from their white counterparts who are racist. And I won't get too deep into that because I actually talk more about that, black nerds seeking validation. Basically, I talk more about that in an article on my website, thepatchannel.com. And the article is called Black History is Way Beyond Slavery, Revisionism in Racist Nerd Culture. So I go a little bit more deeper into that. So I won't do that here. But that's another thing that irks me is just, you know, black nerds seeking validation from these racist trolls and nerds out here. Last one I would say would be the whole, you know, you're not black enough if you're a nerd, which we pretty much touched on earlier when Naya was speaking. You know, it's basically as if you're not an authentic black person if you don't fit the negative stereotype of what is considered black. So, you know, if you're a nerd, it's like you're less of a black person. You're not, I mean, you know, you're black on the outside, but you know, you act white, you talk white, you know, it's like that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, we touched on it. We touched on it before.
We actually did. Did.
So that's something that, and I guess that goes more to the perception of nerd culture. You know, because I think people think nerd culture is mainly for white people. I think, or like basically whites and Asians. I think people attribute nerd culture to whites and Asians. So it's like when when black people are a part of nerd culture, it's like you kind of like, it's like you getting your hood pass or, you know, your black card revoked or some shit like that. So, so that definitely irks me about nerd culture and like, I guess the perception of nerd culture. So those are just some things off top. I'm sure there's some other things, but you know, of course, I'm gonna let E-Man go. I'm sure there's you know, some things out there that, you know, of course, frustrate you about nerd culture or the perception of nerd culture.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing, Mr. PAT. Definitely agree with a lot of what you just said there. So let's go ahead and throw it to our guy, E-Man. What say you on the subject, sir?
All right. So it seems like, you know, after all this wonderful, you know, observations and just good, I would say, opinions on this, you know, I got to follow up a little stronger, actually, you know. So the thing that frustrates me about this whole nerd culture thing is that we're picking and choosing and whatnot. And what I mean by picking and choosing, you know, we're picking what is classifying us as nerds, you know.
It's that gatekeeping shit.
Yeah, and just like, you know, with PAT states, that whole gatekeeping shit. You know, and I definitely agree with that. We don't need gatekeepers to know how nerdy you are. You know, I tell everyone, and I'm gonna break it down very well. You know, even where I grew up, where I was at, you know, I had to hide my own nerdness because I know I was going to get Joan on. You know, and as you see, you know, I've done a few little bit of joning. If you listen to a few, you know, episodes and whatnot, but for me, you know, it kind of hurt because it took me a while to figure out who I was as a person, you know. That's what frustrates me, you know, me not just not knowing that I'm a nerd, but I always knew I was always one. And it was just something, you know, I couldn't shy away from, you know, just because it was not just the cartoons I was in, but just the valuable information I wanted to know, how I was so much in the science, so many different things and whatnot. Like, there's one thing that many people don't know about me that I'm actually about to share with everyone, that I actually used to write poetry and whatnot. Many people don't even know that.
Cool. Me
Mhm.
too. I write
Yeah.
poems as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that, E-Man. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that don't know. And I'm going to drop another bomb on everybody like this, right? Many people don't know that my favorite poet, you know, is actually a woman. But a lot of people don't know that my favorite poet is actually Emily Dickinson, by the way.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
you know, so right now I'm dropping some heavy nerd shit on everybody right now. If you're listening right now, you see? So that's many things I had to hide, you know, to the point where I was actually buying this woman's books and whatnot and reading it in secrecy. You know, that's how much of a nerd I was, because I didn't want nobody to find out that I was that much of a nerd, you know, even, you know, me loving cartoons and whatnot. So when many people come around me and they chill, when you come around my space, you know, I'm always going to have cartoons on because that's how I dope out. That's just my thing, you know? Yeah. And I enjoy, you know, Marvel and DC. But I'm going to drop another bomb on everyone that my favorite all-time cartoon is Tom and Jerry. And I only share that with only certain people because it's simple fact.
Hey, Tom and Jerry.
You know what I'm saying?
Tom and
That
Jerry.
ain't nothing going to be better than that. And that's one of the oldest reigning cartoons out and whatnot, you know? And now I've shared a lot, you know, of my nerdness out here. That's the frustration I go out every day, you know, just not just finding someone to accept my nerdness. It's a simple fact that, you know, you dealing with a nerd, an actual nerd, you know, someone who dopes out on weird shit, you know, and I'm proud of all my weird shit. But here comes the thing. The same thing with this whole gatekeeping thing, you know, is what keep us not just trapped in this box. Nobody wants to be themselves anymore, you know? So I tell everyone, like, you know, I might not be in the Star Wars and whatnot, and you are. You still a nerd in my book and everything like that. But I'm not going to discredit you.
Right.
See, all this stuff that we keep doing, we want to just keep discrediting people to figure out, is this person a nerd because, you know, they're in the Star Wars, you know? Is this person not a nerd? Well, I don't know. He's not in the Marvel. He's not in the DC, you know? This person's not a nerd. Well, I don't know, you know? And we go with this whole back and forth, and what we get, nothing but chaos and whatnot. You know, like, I can't believe this weird racism shit to figure out just because, like, Stan Lee created comics and whatnot and created some dope characters, and he had co-creators on a lot of characters also too. You know, that doesn't mean, like, you know, like you know, you have like that right and authority and whatnot to tell me what I should like and what I should dislike, because I don't tell you to do that. You know. Right. So the frustration just comes on, like, you know, nerds trying to keep battling with other nerds for no reason. And this is the shit that it just got to stop, you know, because if not, you know, we're just going to keep dividing ourselves more and more, you know,
unnecessarily
and unnecessarily, you know.
Yep.
That's the shit that keeps bothering me every day, you know, because I tell everyone now I'm 34, and now I don't not just love my nerdness. I actually dope out to it so much that I enjoy being a nerd. You know what I'm saying? And it don't even bother me when I tell people this and whatnot. You know, before, when you talk about 10, 12 years ago, when it was difficult even being a nerd because you got to fit into like this matrix or this status quo just to fit in. You know, it bothered people when people try to get to know you and whatnot, they'd be like, huh? Like, that's you? You know? So, like, yeah. You know? So all those nerds out here, like, you know, trying to, you know, gatekeep and do us, y'all need to stop that shit, man. You know? Stop it. You know? Us as nerds, we're supposed to be sitting over here communicating with each other, try to get us into other stuff that we trying to get interested in and whatnot. That's the thing. Because I tell everyone like this, right? I haven't watched Star Wars, but I haven't had a real nerd that really got me into watching Star Wars. I've seen I know all the characters. I've seen a few like movies and whatnot, but I haven't seen anything recently. So like that's the thing about being nerds. Our goal is, what I'm saying, to dope out with our nerdiness and show how powerful we are because we're into weird, cool shit and whatnot. And and this is what and so sorry, I've been going so passionate about this because this thing really bothers me because this is what happens when you're an actual nerd. But we just need to start doing better and being better and everything. That I think that's the goal. Us as nerds out here, we need to start doing better and being better. Because I want to make sure that if there's something that we can dope out, let's make sure we do it in a safe space, and then we can all, learn from each other and all have fun with it. I'm gonna just leave it as that. I don't think I have much to say because I feel like the more I keep talking, more and more passion is gonna keep coming out from me because this is what I do. What I'm saying? This is what I do.
We hear that.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you sharing your opinion, of course. Great points made, fellas. So moving on to the next topic, definitely one that is very pertinent right now. We are going to be discussing all this, just disrespect and etc. that a lot of Black athletes are facing from fans. And our official question is, are people being racist by treating NBA players like they're in a zoo? And, I'm going to go ahead and start us off on this. And I'm going to say absolutely without any equivocations, yes, they are. This is a matter of racism. And anyone who wants to deny it and claim otherwise is not living in reality. Because you take a look at these incidents that are continuing to happen, they are not happening to white athletes. And I'm sorry that makes folks uncomfortable to recognize, and they want to say, no, it's about the individual and what they did. That's bullshit. There are plenty of white athletes who don't perform as you would expect them and etc. And you don't see them face some of the same things that Black athletes have faced, not only recently, but in the history of sports, especially in the NBA. Bill Russell has been very, very vocal about some of the things that he faced a long time ago, some of the racial epithets that he recalled and was hurled at him on a nightly basis by home team fans. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar discussed some of the same things. It's crazy. Think about the Ron Artest situation that happened many, many years ago where two fans threw beers on him and etc. It ended up being a big old brawl in the stands. I mean, let's not even get started on all of the incidents and issues that have happened with athletes in Boston. Which, people want to deny this, but has been known to be a fairly racist town. I mean, this is an really open and place. Shut.
I ain't gonna lie. That's a
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, Boston has, and I'm only saying this because this is somebody, who works in, I wouldn't say sports, but I also do a lot of things with sports and fitness and whatnot. And I'm always around like the whole sports realm, especially a whole lot with youth sports. And a lot of things that happen in Boston, I used to read a whole lot when I first started, this whole thing about me being into sports and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But there's a whole lot that goes down in Boston. And Boston is not it's a very sports, it's a very, sports type of state.
Absolutely.
And, they love their sports, but they're very, very, a lot of them are very disrespectful people. They feel that, when you buy a ticket, you feel like you can say what you want to say, to
Yeah,
certain, people, which
and
is
I agree with that, but I'm going to take it a step further and say that the racism that is embedded in that city is displayed in how they treat Black athletes, because it's not just a racism towards athletes thing in Boston. That town is known for it generally being difficult and Black people having to face many different forms of racism in that town. I mean, this is like the way that I feel about it is it's like a known thing, right? Because you're absolutely correct, and that was actually going to be one of my points. I understand that Boston is one of those very proud towns for its team, the Red Sox, the Celtics. There was a whole movie with Damon Wayans called Celtic Pride, right? And it's a movie about two crazed Celtic fans and etc. And I get it. It's a town that is very proud of its teams, but the underlying issue there is that it's also a town that has had a large amount of racial incidents towards Black people in general. And I mean, let's be frank, right? You can pretty much go to any city across the United States and bring up historical racial events that have occurred. But there are some towns where it's a little more, for lack of a better term, known and accepted than in others. And I feel like Boston is one of them. But my points are not even to just focus on Boston, because the point here is that it absolutely, in my opinion, without question, is a matter of racism. The way that some of these NBA players are being treated. I mean, you can't expect for these human beings to accept certain behaviors just because they're athletes. They're humans first, and they don't deserve it. So someone underperforms, that gives someone in the fans the right to throw popcorn on them, like what happened to Russell Westbrook, or to have a bottle thrown at them, like what happened to Kyrie Irving? Absolutely not. Absolutely. And both of those incidents are recent for folks who don't know. Absolutely not. And unacceptable. And I'm sorry, but someone give me an example of when that has happened to a white NBA player. Not even just recently, in general. Give me the example, please, of a fan throwing a bottle at a white NBA player who underperformed. You think that would happen to Luka Doncic here in Dallas? No, no way.
I mean, it happened
And
to
I'm
Dirk.
sorry, but
So
the reality of it is, yes, these are acts of racism. It's unacceptable. These are not zoo animals. You should not, first of all, you shouldn't treat zoo animals that way, but hey, we can't expect but only so much from racists, right? The underlying issue is that they're racist, so they're pieces of shit. So if you're talking about should we expect something different, yeah, we have the right to expect non-racist behavior from fans in the stand. We have the right to expect that. We have the right to expect that not just as athletes that these fans are so-called, or should be appreciative of, but as human beings. And I'm sorry, but every one of these incidents that have occurred is just that, an act of racism. It's unacceptable. These athletes have rights, and their rights should not be overshadowed by the fact that they're NBA players or professional athletes. And I'm happy to hear that some of these stadiums and arenas have stepped up and said, oh, this fan is banned for life. He can't ever return, and etc., which I want to say is what happened with the fan that threw the popcorn on Russell Westbrook. I want to say that what happened was that fan was banned from returning to any of those NBA games. But it's like, at the same time, that's a slap on the wrist. That's assault. Some of these people need to face charges, because until that happens, they will continue to have this nonchalant attitude about acts of racism. That was an act of racism. I don't give a fuck if it was just popcorn. That's not the point. You can't just throw things at someone because you don't like how they're behaving and etc. And because of the color of their skin. Unacceptable. So yes, these are acts of racism. Yes, I do think that harsher penalties need to occur, because until then, we won't really see change in this regard. And those are my thoughts on the matter. So I know that was quick, but for me, it's pretty quick, cut and dry. So I'm going to throw that over to you, Mr. PAT. Again, the official question is, are people being racist by treating NBA players like they are in a zoo? What say you, sir?
All right, so just hearing all this shit, you know, it just makes me think, man, like, I guess this is a day and time where NBA fans just want to act stupid. I mean, what the fuck is up with people throwing things like bottles of water and popcorn at people? Like, seriously, what the fuck is up with that shit? That's really the question that comes to mind for me. Has the NBA become some kind of circus or some kind of zoo? You know, that's what it sounds like. And I'm just gonna say that the animals are not the human beings playing the sport. The animals are the ones in the stands who are throwing things at the players.
Get them, sir.
I mean, like, seriously, it just makes me ask, where are these people's home training at? Why is it okay?
In the zoo, of course.
Why is it okay for you to be uncivilized? Like, seriously, where the fuck are your manners? That's really the question I would have for these people. Where the fuck are your manners? Where the fuck is your home training? Because, I mean, just hearing all this, it's just really egregious. I'm going to quote something that Kevin Durant had to say. And it's, I mean, obviously it's something that I agree with. But he said, in quote, "Fans got to grow up at some point. I know that being in the house for a year and a half with the pandemic got a lot of people on edge, got a lot of people stressed out. But when you come to these games, you have to realize these men are human," end quote. He also said, quote, "We are not animals. We are not in the circus. You coming to the game is not all about you as a fan. So have some respect for the game. Have some respect for the human beings, and have some respect for yourself. Your mother wouldn't be proud of you throwing water bottles at basketball players or spitting on players or tossing popcorn. So grow the fuck up and enjoy the game. It's bigger than you." End quote. So, I mean, that pretty much sums up my stance. Of course, I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Durant. Seriously, people just need to grow the fuck up.
Exactly.
For the people out there listening who's doing this shit, grow the fuck up. It's really that simple. Grow the fuck up. Now, I like the fact that racism was brought up by some of the players, because incidents like these do highlight the fact that people in the stands don't actually see these black men playing on the basketball court as human beings. They just see them as well-trained animals who are there for the sole purposes of their entertainment. We already know racist people don't respect black people's humanity. They just think that black people are here to entertain them. Either we have to run a ball up and down a court or a field for them, or we have to make them laugh. That is basically what they think our purpose in life is.
Ooh, sir.
So
you preaching now.
So, I mean, it's definitely something I'm passionate about, because, I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just really fucking ridiculous. Even just hearing it, reading about it, it's fucking ridiculous. But going back to, you know, racist. So with that train of thought, where we basically have to run a ball up and down a court or a field, or if we're not doing that, we have to make them laugh. With this train of thought, I mean, of course, these folks feel emboldened enough to throw things at NBA players and even spit on them. And sidebar real quick, Trae Young not wanting to press charges against the person who spit on him. I mean, come on, dude. Seriously, you should have went ahead and pressed charges. People need to be taught a lesson. We gotta press charges.
Sense. I mean,
straight up.
That makes perfect sense. Sorry to cut you off, PAT. That makes perfect sense. But like, in the sense of like Trae Young, I can see why he didn't do it. Him pressing charges is a very, very, intelligent move,
Right.
But in his mind, he's like, what am I getting out of it? I make millions.
You're punishing a racist. I mean, it's really that simple.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the only thing out of it. And many people probably talked them out of it, by the way,
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where like it's like this bitterness with everyone, because like, even though Trae Young, is a millionaire, he has money, he's still human. So like in the back of this mind, it's like, yo, how dare you do this and that and that, then that enrages somebody to go do something wild and crazy, So it makes so much sense, but he had, like, for him, when you have a lot of people around you who's teaching you about, just push it away, and be, save some another day, being versus as somebody really coming out there, really going like do something, because that's where some people just take it sometimes, because many people are not in the correct thought about what they do things at the moment. They just react.
Right. They react, and I mean, I understand all that, but my take honestly is, I mean, he should have pressed charges, simple and plain. Whoever's in his corner.
I agree.
And I heard his father was a part of this too. I guess he maybe is one of the people who, I guess, talked him out of it, if I remember correctly. Either way, whoever's in his corner and I guess told him to not press charges or turn the other cheek, it's like, fuck that. He should have pressed charges. I mean, you got spat on. Somebody fucking spit on you.
That is assault, bro.
Yeah, that's assault.
Full assault.
I mean,
that is some real disgusting ass shit right there. And
yes,
honestly, honestly, whoever does that should just get fucked up. It's really that simple. Like, spitting is that's like a low, that's just low. That's just extremely low.
That is low.
You deserve to get your shit knocked in straight up. And just talking about it, I'm feeling passionate, because it's like, man, if somebody spit on me, they getting fucked up.
Period.
Period. I mean, that's how I feel, straight up. Because that
I got a story for y'all. Then
that's a whole nother low. But just to cap off what I was saying, because I know we need to get to my man E-Man. So NBA players, the fact of the matter is, NBA players are human beings who should be respected as such. These men have lives. They have families, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, why do people think it's okay to get out of pocket? Now, is this what we call a civilized society? Is this what we call civilization? Okay, well, if we do live in a civilized society, let's act like it. For the people out there thinking it's okay to act stupid, seriously, get your act together. If you can't get your act together, then stay in the fucking house. Or, do you belong in the cage with the real animals? Is that where you belong? If you're going to go out there and act like an animal? If that's what you want to do, then maybe you belong in that fucking cage with real animals.
Ooh.
It's really that simple. If the thing is, if you want to say that you don't belong in a cage with real animals, then once again, get your act together. Straight up, get your act together. That's it for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing. Let's go ahead and throw this to Mr. E-Man. And again, just to refresh there, the question is, are people being racist by treating NBA players like they're in a zoo? What say you, sir?
Well, I'm not going to say, them being racist. I would say that, these people, they're more full of themselves. It's more of this, privilege is the wrong word to use, and I need to find the right word. And I'm gonna keep talking until I find the right word. But it's more the sense of, I spend my hard-earned money, I get a chance to go buy a ticket for entertainment, and what basketball is just entertainment, But the entitlement, and I think that's the better word to use, it's this whole entitlement thing, that I can go spend $50 to $100 for a good seat, maybe $300 if it's courtside, or $500, that I can spend so much to sit courtside, go buy me a beer, laugh and do all these crazy things, But they have to understand that, this is just a game at the end of the day,
May I ask a quick question there,
Yes.
Eman? I think that's definitely a good point that you raised, but I'm just wondering how come these acts of entitlement don't happen towards white athletes?
I was just about to ask next.
And I will tell you this. I'm gonna tell everyone this. I'll give you the best answer, and this is just me being just me, not just working in sports and whatnot. Many, many, many teams and whatnot. And a lot of many many of the basketball players that you see, who many people consider as white, a lot of them are a lot of foreign players and whatnot. So a lot of players in the NBA don't even live in the U.S. So they don't even many of them understand or even understand any of the cultures that go around. Most of them. That's why many people don't know too much about Dirk Nowitzki when he played for the Dallas Mavericks, because he was a German who lived in Germany, who played for the Mavericks, but only kept to himself. So even Dirk had very bad days, but no one did anything to him because they knew,
black wife.
because they knew basically he couldn't speak like really good English at the time when he first started playing. There's a lot of weird things that why they don't. I wouldn't say just do or say. It's more the sense of like everyone plays this safe card because the simple fact is oh, you don't speak that good English, but if I say something to you and it comes off bad, what do I look like? A racist. You see how that works?
But they look racist when they're attacking black athletes,
exactly,
and they're not attacking white athletes.
And what you're saying is making perfect sense. But this is the thing why it doesn't come off racist when you look, and this is how they get everyone. It's because the simple fact is, Russell can speak perfect English. So it's like, say if like Russell's leaving and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And like, he doesn't say anything, but a fan curses him out. White, black doesn't even matter. He says something back, those people feel like they have the entitlement to do something because he is human. So they're not even thinking about him being a basketball player. They're thinking about the simple fact is like, yo, I'm going to jump this if you going to jump in, And
so you thinking this is about, you think it's entitlement and nationality, not entitlement and racism?
Yes. Yes. If you want.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, but hold on real quick. So let's just say it wasn't Dirk Nowitzki. Let's say it wasn't him. Let's say it was like, for example, like a Steve Nash or
okay.
Right,
let's say
exactly.
with somebody like him.
Right.
I mean, has something like this ever happened to him or any of the white players who speak perfect English?
Not to my knowledge.
I
Not
can't
to
think
my
of any time I've
knowledge.
heard of it.
And here comes a very interesting thing about, Steve Nash and whatnot. Amazing basketball player, by the way. But when Steve Nash was playing you know, when he was playing for Phoenix, and Phoenix was having like 50, win seasons and whatnot, and they wasn't making it, past the second and third round, you know. They were a lot of people saying a lot of nasty things to Steve Nash, not much to Amir Stoudemire, who was actually the vocal point of that team, by the way, you know. They said a lot of nasty things to him, but Steve basically ignored everything, you know, he's never gotten things thrown on him based upon my knowledge, but I might have to really, look really into it and whatnot, you know. I know Jason Kidd because he's a much older player than Nash and whatnot. Jason never had to deal with certain things, but I feel like he had to deal with a lot more personal things. I feel like more fans said things to him, you know, like personally in his face, and saying very mean gestures like at him, versus as throwing something at them. But you know, and it's sad. Like it's really, really sad, that we can't even enjoy simple things because everyone wants to be in their feelings, like and just to share people this, if many would know what a daily routine is for many professional athletes, because this is their job, not, you know, and for me, I crack up on all of them and whatnot. I still have respect for them and whatnot, but I know what their daily in and outs towards is like, what they do is their job, and many people are so enticed because what I'm saying, like, you want your team to win, like everyone else does, but you get so into something so much that it becomes you and you lose yourself and whatnot, And when you start losing yourself, that's when the craziness start coming out, That's why many people don't want to talk to you.
But if I might, E-Man, my only thing is, if that principle is correct, wouldn't it be that they would be losing themselves equally towards all these athletes as opposed to just the black ones? Right? So in other words, if it's something they truly can't control, because the point is they're just so enthralled in their fanship. And trust me, as a Patriots fan, I understand where you're coming from, because I used to at one point like get emotionally frustrated when we didn't perform well. However, my only thing is there's not an even amount of these instances amongst all types of athletes. There's a disproportionate amount of these incidents happening to black athletes. I'm having trouble accepting that that's a coincidence.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. I mean, it's not. I mean, this is, these behaviors has been going on ever. It's like since when you look at, when it looks at sports, because many of the teams, they put these driving forces towards, many of the black athletes and whatnot, like even, and I will keep it very easy and simple, many like a Steve Nash and whatnot, even when he played, in Phoenix and whatnot, he wasn't even the star player. It was Stoudemire who was the star player out of everything, Yeah. It's just that Steve was just a facilitator and he just made everything look good because he had players around him, So when Steve had a bad game, no one cared because, when you look at the tickets, that tells you, who they, who are they like, like focusing on and whatnot, Like an example would be, like with the Bucks now. What was the biggest thing, when the Bucks this year, even though they won the Super Bowl, they put Tom Brady on their tickets because they knew, that's what everyone came to see and whatnot, and that's when people get mad and enraged because they feel like I got to go attack this person because it's your fault that you lost and whatnot, So I can't really say it could be a whole lot of things and whatnot that embeds this person to do these things, but they're very disrespectful and they feel like they have some type of weird entitlement behind it, and that's where it leads more down the line. So this guy who threw that water bottle on Russell and everything like that, he probably didn't like Russell.
Russell was the popcorn. Yeah, the water bottle was Kyrie.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
So no, you're fine.
So the popcorn was Russell and whatnot. So so he threw something that he know that it's gonna bother him, but it wouldn't it won't cause as much damage because it's food and whatnot, and his popcorn is pretty light. So he's just like boom, I'm gonna just throw it in your face and whatnot. So he's probably just angry and he probably has a hate towards like Russell Westbrook. That's how certain people create hate, and that's his issue.
That's definitely a possibility. I think on this one, there isn't enough of these attacks happening to athletes who aren't Black for me to be comfortable with that. I appreciate, and as always, here on The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, we don't always agree, and that's fine. For me, there is not enough evidence to suggest that this is solely about entitlement and nationality, because it's never I can't think of one incident that's occurred against a white player in the NBA. I can't. And for me, that's just too high a level of coincidence to accept that this is only about entitlement. I think you're absolutely right to an extent that it is partially about entitlement, but I think it's a combination of entitlement and racism, because there's no way that this entitlement doesn't apply to non-Black athletes. And the fact that there is not one recorded incident, I think the racist fans that are in the crowd feel entitled enough because they paid their ticket and etc. to show their racist antics. That's what I think.
I mean, that's basically where I'm getting at with this, and that's how I see since I've been watching, and it's really hard because many of the white athletes, they don't even consider them start. They don't push them the way, because most of them, they know it's a game, and most of them just walk away from it, and I can't really explain, which is more and less and whatnot, because for me, if I go see, like when Steve Nash was playing for Phoenix, and if I was a big Phoenix fan and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't say I hate him, but I wouldn't throw nothing at him, And like, I don't like to say it's different strokes for different folks, but like there's certain people, who ain't that scared that might do something very wild and crazy and whatnot. And you can't say
the white athletes haven't. We can't really say that they would just walk away from it because they haven't experienced it to say that. We don't know because it doesn't happen to them.
And I blame, and this is why I talk. I blame all owners for it, because many people just don't know that many of your Black athletes that play on a sports team, those people are their stars because those are the people they know. Those are the people they know that's going to come out to go see them play and whatnot.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Because remember when Donald Sterling was having that whole racist thing with him and Blake Griffin and whatnot. So remember, Blake Griffin was 22 at the time when he played, for the Clippers and whatnot. But when he first played there, look how big they were pushing him so much, because they knew that's what drove in ticket sales. They want to see Blake Griffin play, just like when Chris Paul was on. They know what to do to get what people. Then afterwards, you start seeing people's behavior when shit don't go right their way. That's But we can't blame it on the athlete. We have to blame it on these individuals who can't act right. So to the statement that Kevin Durant said, I definitely agree with it because there's certain people who can't get their shit together. Like it's
Here,
sad.
let me interject just real quick. So I mean, I think it's obvious that myself and Naya are in agreement in terms of well, altogether we're in agreement, especially with the racist component. I mean, plain and simple, it's racism. It's hard not to see it as anything otherwise. And the reason I say this is because although I'm not an avid sports watcher, I'm still familiar with the realm of sports because as I've spoken on in other podcasts, other episodes of our podcast, as I've spoken on other episodes of our podcast, I mean, I have been in and out, watching it from time to time growing up. I have family members who are heavy into sports. So, I'm familiar with what goes on within the realm of sports. And it's hard for me not to see the racism that goes on within that realm. Now it's on different levels, obviously, because racism isn't just one thing.
Exactly.
It's a multi-level thing. And yeah, like Naya said, I mean, which white players, which white athletes have gone through the things that the black athletes have gone through? You don't really hear about that,
at all.
And I think it goes back to racism because I think what happens is the people that are in the stands, the people who watch, the fans, the diehard fans, whoever, it goes back to that self-entitlement, that whole entitlement thing. They just feel that the black players are not human and they're just there for their entertainment. And let's just say if the black players don't perform the way that they would like, or not even just that, if they even just don't like that particular black player, as was mentioned before, I mean, yeah, they feel the need to throw something at the black player or spit on them or whatever. Basically, they feel the need to outright disrespect them. And, I can't see them doing that to a white player. They're going to do it to the black player because on some level, they feel that they have some type of ownership of that black player. They basically, it's like a way of dehumanizing them. And I mean, they're already dehumanized because, that black player is there for the sole purposes of their entertainment. And if you don't entertain me the way that I would like, me, because I pay for these tickets, me, I pay for these tickets, then, I gotta do something to you. And it doesn't matter because to me, you're just not a human being. So that's how it comes across. And I mean, I can guarantee, even though, like I said before, I'm not this avid sports watcher, but I could just guarantee, going off what I heard, the things I know, that white athletes are not being disrespected in this way. And to me, that's not a coincidence.
Wholeheartedly agree.
That's not a coincidence. And this goes to a saying that one of my favorite sayings is, nothing happens in a vacuum. The reason black players are being disrespected in this way is, I mean, because of racism. Let's just put it out there. It's straight up racism. That's what it is.
Wholeheartedly agree, sir. And all righty, man. What say you, sir?
All right. So, just to wrap it up and everything like that, so we can move on to the next topic. So I'm going to just pull one out of the hat. So I'm going to just say, I'm not going to, disowners and whatnot, but I'm going to just say it's just going to be like the 1992, film, White Man Can't Jump. So I'm going to just leave it as that. And let's move on.
Okay, that's one of my favorite films, by the way.
And that's the reason why they focus a lot more on the black players than the white ones. Because of that movie. Right. And don't blame it on Wesley Snipes.
True. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Moving on to the next subject, which is definitely a very pertinent one. It is also speaking to something that is affecting, the Black community of athletes, and it's talking about mental health. For a lot of you who are not familiar, Naomi Osaka, she is the number two tennis player in the world, I believe, who has just recently resigned from playing in the current tournament that's happening, the French Open, and it's due to mental health. She bowed out of the French Open on Monday. And it was, I'm going to read a small excerpt from an article that is actually on the New York Times, and it was posted today, and it just says, 13 sentences. That's all we got from Naomi Osaka as she bowed out of the French Open on Monday after causing a ruckus over her plan to skip post-match news conferences. She did not speak those sentences. They were posted on her Instagram account, nor did she provide anything like a deep explanation. But and that's what the article has. But just to elaborate further, folks, what she was particularly speaking to was the fact that she has had some depression in the past, and speaking is difficult for her to the media about things. And this story is getting a lot of buzz because it's bringing up, the importance of mental health in the sports world. And so our official question is, should athletes be required to always speak to the media, even if they have mental health issues? So again, I'm going to start this off. And for me, this is simple. The answer is absolutely not. Athletes are human beings first. They are not animals to be controlled. They are not, machines to be controlled. These are people with feelings. You never know what any one person is going through at any time. I've heard stories of athletes who have played the game, having just found out a sibling passed away, or, wife is given birth, or, so many different things. And it makes you stop and just appreciate the fact that these are human beings who are, executing whatever sport that they're in for not just a paycheck, but because they know that they mean that much to the fans. I mean, think about that. If this was just about a paycheck, in every one of those instances I just named, the athlete could have said, okay, I'll take the fine. I'm going to go be, a part of this life-changing event. But instead, they know what it means to the fans, and they've made that decision to, to not be in the moment of that life experience so that they can give their fans a great experience. So to turn around and not have any empathy for them, especially when they're citing mental health issues as the reason they don't want to talk to the press, how could we not be empathetic to that? As a fellow human being, we have a responsibility to be empathetic to that. And furthermore, let's not pretend like, and I know people are going to argue with the press are just doing their job. It's their job to ask the difficult questions. It's their job to ask the racy questions. Okay, sure. But let's
What
not act
difficult
like they're...
questions do they be asking? I'm so sorry to cut you off now, Angel. But
No,
like,
I
what?
mean, they ask them. I mean, like, sometimes it could be a situation where, the team just lost and etc. The person played badly. And they're coming to that exact same athlete, like, what do you think caused you to play so horribly today? It's not necessarily just the question, it's the way they pose the question as well. And I get it, right? Like Michael, great example, the Michael Rappaport, Kevin Durant issue. It wasn't just what Michael Rappaport said. It was how he said it. It was the terminology he used, right? And I mean, you have to expect that these are human beings that you're dealing with. If you use terminology that can invite angst, don't expect the perfect response from these athletes. They're human beings.
I definitely agree. But can we go on the record and just say Michael Rappaport's an asshole? Can we just say that? Like,
like I said, when we were discussing that topic on that specific session, I feel like both of them were in the wrong. Michael Rappaport and Kevin Durant. I feel like both of them were in the wrong for different reasons in that situation, but I did understand both sides of the issue. I just think that we have to understand something. Yes, the media has a responsibility to report and to give the people what they want, right? And to a certain extent, the athletes have the responsibility to provide the fans what they want and answer questions and etc. But at the same time, to expect them to do this unequivocally at all times, like they're not human beings, and that certain circumstances, we shouldn't expect them to behave as machines, I think that's reasonable. When it comes to their mental health, yes, it's important that we, the fans, we, the public, consider that. And, to be honest with you, I don't have much more to add to that, fellas, because again, this is another subject that we're discussing that is pretty cut and dry to me. These are human beings, not machines. Yes, they have a responsibility to the fans and the public. That responsibility should not outweigh their mental health. And to be honest, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I'm going to go ahead and throw this to Mr. PAT. The official question again is, should athletes be required to always speak to the media, even if they have mental health issues? What say you, sir?
So I think there are certain circumstances where an athlete should be forgiven for not talking to the media. Now, I understand there are contractual obligations, but maybe there need to be some loopholes or something in these contracts that allow for athletes to be able to decide if they want to speak or not at certain times. Period. They shouldn't be required to speak to the media at all times, especially if they have mental health issues. Mental health is a very serious thing, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. I just think it's crazy that Naomi got fined $15K in the first place. 15 fucking K. Basically,
that's like an equivalent to like an $100 fine. I know that sounds crazy, but like
no.
That's when you compare, it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah,
when you look at athletes, like for many of them, like 15K is like, it's nothing.
That's still 15K less than what
it is. 15K less, but it's one of those things like, it's like it's a loss, but it's not really a loss. But
it's a loss one way or another. I mean, if like, let's say one of us average folk lose like $50, $100, like, I mean, small chump change in the bigger scheme of things, but it's still a loss of money regardless. Like, you just don't want to lose money like that. It's still a L, whether it's a big L, a small L. I'm looking at it like, she's taking an L. Anytime somebody loses money, regardless of the amount, they're taking an L, so 15,000, it might not be anything to her, but just looking at the scope of what 15,000 is, that's still a nice little chunk of change that she lost.
Exactly. It wasn't a $500 fine. It was to have enough of an impact without being ridiculous, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, ridiculous for her, I guess, for her standards, because she is a pro athlete. So, I mean, I understand that point where, like, you know, that's not that much for them anyway. But regardless, it's still fucked up. But, you know, basically what it sounds like, you know, so when something like that happens, what it sounds like is, well, fuck your mental health issues and well-being. You violated your contract and you need to just suffer the consequences. But hey, get well soon. That's what this sounds like. That's the way this comes across. Now, on the flip side, I think it's good to see that some of the companies that she has sponsorship deals with have shown their support for her. It shows that at least some companies actually give a damn about a person's health. Now, when it comes to black athletes being punished for taking certain stances isn't anything new, as we all know. We know what has happened with black athletes who speak out against racial injustice. If you're not Colin Kaepernick, who lost his job in the NFL for police brutality, then maybe you are part of the WNBA and have gotten fined for wearing black warm-up shirts to protest police brutality. Or you were LeBron James and told to just shut up and dribble. Naomi Osaka decided not to speak to the media so she can deal with her issues with mental health and depression. And unfortunately, she was punished for that. It's already bad enough that the subject of mental health seems to be taboo in the Black community. But when you have an organization that prioritizes their contractual agreement over a human being's health, a Black woman's health, it says a lot. It says a lot. And I think on some level, this plays into the whole, quote, strong Black woman trope. This idea that Black women are somehow superhuman and are able to bypass human pain and struggle due to how strong they are. I mean, while we should recognize Black women for being able to endure hardships and struggles, we don't need to rob them of their humanity either. Like, that's just something we really just don't need to do. This is the same trope that has created an environment where Black men aren't needed, where so-called Black men are not needed. And it just adds fuel to the fire of the whole, quote, strong, independent Black woman thing. Something that I think has been damaging to the Black community as a whole and really has played a role in destroying the Black family.
Oh my gosh, sir, preach.
But just to wrap it up, I don't think athletes should be required to speak to the media at all times. Professional athletes already deal with an extreme amount of pressure from all angles. The last thing that is needed is for them to feel coerced into disregarding their own health in order to appease an organization. We don't need that. That's just my thoughts on the matter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely agree with you on a lot of those points. And I appreciate you bringing up some of those subjects because you're absolutely correct. You know, it definitely correlates to, you know, the fact that there is this stigma for Black women being independent, being strong, and etc.
Right.
That often people do not realize the amount of pressure that it places on us. Mm-hmm. Right. We have this urge to need to be this superwoman, this Wonder Woman at all times and just tough through it, no matter what we're experiencing. And, you know, that's not fair. You know what I mean? And I know the world is not fair. I know people can argue the world is not fair. But when you're dealing with what we're facing in the Black community, trying to, you know, reunite us as a community, as a ethnic group, it is definitely one of the biggest issues, as you said, Pat, this stigma that is placed on us. So thank you very much for bringing that up. That's not even something that I mentioned in my dialogue, but it is definitely pertinent to this situation. So I appreciate that. And so, E-Man, just to reiterate the question for you, sir, it is, should athletes be required to always speak to the media, even if they have mental health issues? What say you, good sir?
All right, so I feel like everyone, and I'm gonna give everyone all these athletes out here. I'm gonna have to give everybody the whole sneak tip that we forgot to learn from the greatest interviewer of all time of all sports is Marshawn Lynch. The only man when it comes to an interview only have to say 5 to 7 words and basically
Mm-hmm.
say, "I'm only here so I don't have to get fined."
True.
I, I would give all athletes that same line. If you don't want to deal with them, Marshawn Lynch has saved us all. Yes, yes, he has, and whatnot. And I want to put it out there. Let's just use that in a sense, you know. The thing when it comes,
That's actually not bad advice, even.
Right. It's really not. That's
so,
like a
and
template
this
right
is why
there.
I love Marshawn Lynch. It's just, man, it's one day I just want to just sit there and just chop it up with that man. He is a funny dude. And I'm thankful for him saving all athletes out there. Just that one line, you know? And they'll leave you alone. What happened when he did that? After a few tries, they didn't want to interview him anymore. So, Marshawn Lynch, I want to applaud you, brother, for the best line in the world. And athletes out there, let's just use that line if you don't want to deal with the media. You know, I get it, you guys. There's a lot of endorsements and contract deals that are out there. I get it. I understand the sports behind business. This is something that I love and enjoy, that I read on. This is why I'm a nerd. And so, first things first and whatnot, I felt when I heard this story, this was actually, this is something I really wanted to talk about because first things first and whatnot, I gotta give it up to Miss Naomi and whatnot. She is good looking in the eyes. So congratulations on that part right there, you know? And then, I just pull up the phone just to see, how much, Miss Naomi makes towards his prize money, which is about 19, million, you know. So, 15,000. Yeah, it hurts, but I know it hurts. But let's make sure we use Marshawn to help you out in that situation and whatnot. But the media needs to stop being these vultures. That's what they are. That's what they do. That's what they are, because they all want a story. Like I always call all like newscasters, I like to call them assholes and whatnot, who always wants a story. They're like hoes. That's what they do. Like, they will whore themselves out for a story, no matter how much for every interview, Because if you're there, they're gonna do their best to go get this interview, no matter what and whatnot. That's what they do. They're all hoes. And the only way you gotta put a hoe in their place, you gotta set them right and you gotta set them straight. And that's how Marshawn did it. So all you athletes out there, learn from Marshawn Lynch, please, because it would just end all the BS that you don't have to deal with these motherfuckers. All the BS. But it's very sad for them not respecting this woman's wishes. It shouldn't even gone that far. I get it with all those deals and whatnot. It shouldn't have gone that far, and it went there. You know what? And now there's been, I can't even say media talk, but it seems like everyone it's made a lot of people angry and mad. For me, am I angry? No. Am I mad? No. Am I upset? Yes. Why? Because when it comes to upsetting, women, it bothers me in the sense when they didn't do anything wrong, and she didn't do anything wrong. You know, she, you know, she's the second ranked highest player, in the world in tennis. Can anybody really find has she really done? You know, I don't know because I'm just hearing about her name, and I'm not much of a tennis follower and whatnot. But this is my first time hearing, and since this is my first time hearing her name, you know, I need to go sit down and find out how many interviews she's done. And if she hasn't done much, why are we pushing this issue? and
She
everything.
has done. She became famous recently in the last couple of years, and I'm not like a super avid tennis fan or anything, but because she beat Serena Williams, I think it was either last
Oh,
year or the year
that's
before
why.
that.
That's why.
Yeah, and
That's why.
she's really good. She's actually really really good.
And
But
that's the
yes,
reason
she
why.
definitely has done, I want to say, more than at least a handful of interviews, but she's spoken on the fact that it brings her anxiety, even, thinking about having to do the interview part. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, okay, that's a really good note. And I feel like for all athletes and whatnot, like most of them don't want to talk to y'all. Like that is that is the actual truth. You know, just because you guys are sitting there, trying to collect a story, these people don't want to talk to y'all at all. You know, yeah, they are forced by contingencies between contracts for them to actually say something to y'all to get a story. So all my athletes out there, follow Marshawn Lynch. I feel like Marshawn Lynch should write a guide on how to not talk to the media and whatnot. You know, and I'm just putting it out there so if Marshawn's listening and whatnot. Like I'm trying to give everyone all these tools that they need. And this is something that we really need out there. So and
Yeah, no, Marshawn Lynch is definitely a good example of how some athletes have dealt with this issue. So,
yeah. Because I remember when Marshawn was dealing with it and he didn't want to talk to it. When he was now forced to, and there goes the word. I'm just here so I don't have to get fined. And guess what? Once he said it so much, they left him alone and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now
I don't know that every athlete would be able to say that all the time. Then they would
I
just
feel like every
change the
athlete will give.
rules. But
I'll put it like this: if Bill Belichick can go to an interview and say only one word and whatnot, and get away with his interviews, what you mean any other man? Y'all can get away with murder if y'all had to in an interview. You know what I'm saying? You know, all you have to say is one word and leave it alone, and everything will be out. That's why I have to give. And Bill Belichick. I feel like Marshawn Lynch learned from Bill Belichick and whatnot. Just sit there, say one word, and be like, all right, we're done. All right, cool. I'll see you guys next week, and leave it as that. So don't make the interview process difficult. When they just want something so they can get a story because they're all hoes. So how do you put a hole in their place? You gotta make sure you man up and tell them like, no, you ain't gonna do this to me.
And
you know what you need to do.
I agree with you for a lot of it. I think the only thing is that, like, when people are going through mental health issues, sometimes things in the moment are not that cut and dry, right? There are other elements that play a part in this. Sometimes it could be, that the entire, as I was saying earlier, the entire time that athlete is performing, their mind is not right, right? And you can see that through their performance. And so I think it's incumbent upon the media to have a heart, which rarely happens, but that's part of that. Right. Right. That's part of it. It's incumbent upon the media, and it's incumbent upon these owners and these organizations to recognize that these are people, not machines.
That's hard for them to say when that cash flow keep coming in. That's the thing when you own a sports business, because the thing about sports is not supposed to make money. I just want to put it out there, it's a form of entertainment, you know, you know, they do many things to get you not just to like get you into like fall into the entertainment part. They have to do many things to get you to love something that you don't need to love. That sounds crazy, but you're talking to somebody who's been working in sports, for almost 10 years and whatnot. I've even taught. I actually, and I'm gonna give you guys a very interesting story. I had a chance, to work with an ex NFL player. That was actually pretty cool. That was like one of the dopest things I had fun with since me being a trainer. That's been like the coolest thing, and I never thought this would ever happen to me at all and whatnot. Come to find out, he's an alum at the same school I went to for college and whatnot. That made it extra dope and whatnot. And I had a chance to actually talk to him about certain things and whatnot, not just towards his interviews and whatnot, but he really gave me a breakdown a lot more in sports and whatnot, not just from the media and whatnot, like towards athletes and everything. It gave me the best insight in the world. And since then, it helped me now realize, not just because everything's smoke and like fumes and whatnot. It's just the simple fact is like, many people just won't get it and whatnot, They won't get it. It's just a business and whatnot. And this is what they keep doing to these people. So when I tell people, sports is just a business, like it definitely is, because it's definitely a cash cow. But they don't even look at these people as individuals. They look like basically, like Naomi said, we want to make sure they don't look like machines, but that's what they see them as. That is what because these players can be going down injured and they'll still push them to the limit. Like, ask yourself this, right? This woman beat Serena Williams, which is one of the top tennis players of, since this past decade and whatnot. It's like passing the torch to her now. So now it's like, oh, you're going to be Serena now and whatnot, because Serena did her interview. She did everything that she was supposed to do, She did all that, But because
she also did an interview recently supporting Naomi and saying she wished she could give her a hug. Yeah. So there's definitely some support coming from her counterparts. Yeah. And I'm very happy to see that. So but yeah, I definitely think we all definitely made some great points here. E-Man, did you have anything you wanted to add to wrap us up?
I just want to quickly wrap up. My apologies, but I just want to quickly wrap up.
No,
and just
no worries. No worries at all.
But just basically saying, many athletes will always be in support of other athletes of things that they don't want to do and whatnot. But just at the end of the day, can we just make sure we pick up, Marshawn Lynch, How to Beat an Interview 101, written by Marshawn Lynch and Bill Belichick.
Marshawn Lynch template.
Yeah, you better follow that template. I'm telling you that right now. And Bill too, because Bill's doing it right.
Give it a shot. Can't hurt to give it a shot. All right, fellas. Great stuff. So moving on to the next subject, let's talk about this silly woman who has been donned the moniker of Central Park Karen.
We got another Karen in the building.
Her name is Amy Cooper. And
like the name,
she is in the news again because she has recently decided to sue her ex-employer, get this, for discrimination of all things. Listen to the hypocrisy of that bullshit. So for those of you, so before I throw it to Mr. PAT with the official question, for those of you who don't know, Amy Cooper is a white lady who called the police on a black man this was in Central Park, who was basically just a bird watcher. Right. He was not doing anything in any kind of negative way. And she calls the police and she's basically making claims that he threatened her and her dog, which no such incident happened. And the thing is, the man was videotaping the entire situation. So as a result of the incident that occurred, her job fired her. They made an official statement that says, "We do not tolerate racism of any kind at Franklin Templeton," which is an investment firm. And they actually made that comment the day after the incident occurred. So apparently they have fired her, and she is filing a lawsuit that her company discriminated against her because of her race and gender. So, the official question is, why is Central Park Karen suing a company for firing her based on her racist behavior? So I'm going to go ahead and throw this to Mr. PAT. What say you, sir?
So the title of the article that I read is Amy Cooper didn't learn much from her time as Central Park Karen. I agree with that title.
I love that.
I wholeheartedly agree with that title.
Oh, repeat the headline for me again.
The headline is Amy Cooper didn't learn much from her time as Central Park Karen.
That's what happened to hoes when they don't listen.
Pretty much. But so like I said, I agree with the title. I mean, when you read it, it's obvious that she didn't learn. She could be a prime example of how something like so-called racial sensitivity training or anything along those lines won't make someone unracist. It's clear as day that she didn't learn her lesson when you read her statement against Christian Cooper, the black man that she tried to weaponize the police on. She has, as stated before, she has filed a lawsuit against the firm she used to work for called Franklin Templeton. And in that lawsuit, she said that Christian Cooper was, and this is in quotes, an overzealous bird watcher engaged in Central Park's ongoing feud between bird watchers and dog owners.
Oh, time out. So this Karen right here, she's already been a Karen and she's still doing Karen-like things out there again?
Yeah, that's pretty much what's
wholeheartedly.
That's what's going on. Yeah.
Oh, she about to get dusted by me.
So
I'm gonna let you finish. I'm about to go in on her.
But yeah, that's what she's doing. She's still being a Karen, being a Ku Klux Karen. So it's clear that
I like that.
yeah, Ku Klux Karen. You know, that's what her and others like her are. So it's clear that she is still a racist because she was not only caught on camera dialing 911 to lie about a black man threatening her life, but after suffering the consequences of that, she still went and pulled the white woman victim card and targeted Christian Cooper in her statement. Now, here's where I pivot a little bit. Christian Cooper, and this is going to be a pretty controversial statement, but I'm going to just say it straight out. Christian Cooper had this coming. Reason he had this coming is because while Amy Cooper was dealing with the repercussions for her racist actions, he didn't feel that she needed to have her life torn apart. This is what he said. Now, I'm not saying that he forgave this woman. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But when black people go light on these suspected
clown shit.
Yeah, it's some real clown shit. But the thing is, black people go light on suspected white supremacists for their racist actions towards us. It's really just not a good look. It's not a good look at all. Black people who do that are goofy as fuck, in my opinion. Y'all are real goofy, straight up. Y'all are goofy as fuck. I mean, her life might have been torn apart, but she was the one who did that. Her life being, quote unquote, torn apart, that's her fault. If her life was torn apart, I mean, I say, oh well. Oh well, you fucked your life up.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's just what it is.
Consequences of your actions.
Right, it's
accountability.
You don't even want to know what just came in my mind right now. I'm gonna tell you like this. When you what you just said, it reminded me of that same situation when you had to forget about, that Justice League movie that. I'm sorry, that skipped him.
But yeah,
let's continue.
But yeah, I mean, I just say, oh, well, to her, I guess saying her life was torn apart, her crying about it or whatever. Like, I mean, nobody gives a fuck, honestly. I don't give a fuck. I don't think anybody else does. I mean, anytime these racist women and men in some cases feel the need to weaponize the police on Black people, they know what they're doing. They're very conscious in the decisions that they make. This is no different from when Black men were falsely accused back in the day of rape and being lynched for it. Emmett Till was murdered based on a false accusation.
Ooh-wee.
If we got to go back in history, we already know the deal. But the fact of the matter is, racist people are cowards, and they are cowards because the depths that they would go to harm Black people. I mean, obviously it's egregious. And I mean, for us, for Black people, it's something that, and really everybody else, not just Black people, but everybody else, it's just something not to take lightly. We just shouldn't take these types of things lightly. If these so-called Karens have to have their lives ruined, then so be it. It's not Black people's job to continuously turn the other cheek and forgive. I say, fuck all that forgiveness shit. That's just, my whole thing. Fuck this forgiveness shit. Let's punish these people. In life, there are consequences. There are consequences for your actions. We all face consequences. No one is exempt from that. So I personally don't care whether or not these people like or accept Black people. I really don't care, because I believe people are free to say and do whatever they want. However, those people are not free from the consequences. If you're someone who thinks it's okay to do racist shit, then guess what? You can just be branded as a racist. Not only that, but you can lose your job. You can lose other things in your life. You can get your ass whooped. You can most certainly get dealt whatever harsh consequences come your way. Whatever those consequences are, there are people like myself and others who don't give a fuck about your tears. We don't care about how you suffered after an incident. We just don't care. I mean, why should we? When you didn't give enough of a fuck about Black life whenever you felt uncomfortable. So yeah, this woman suing the place that she used to work at and crying about perceived discrimination against herself is really just a joke. That's my take on it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Definitely agree and appreciate those points. We're going to go ahead and throw this to E-Man. Again, the question is, why is Central Park Karen suing a company for firing her based on her racist behavior? What say you, sir?
Oh man, sorry about that. I had to chill out for a little bit and actually had to smoke a little lavender and whatnot. But man. So this is the same Karen that we had to deal with the last time, right? The same one. That's what it seems like. Well, first things first. You need to stop making every white woman, European out here looking bad. That's the first thing. All these Karens out here, y'all need to stop making them look, because there's some good ones out here. There's a bunch of them out. Y'all need to stop making them look bad. That's the first thing and whatnot, If you guys got problems and whatnot, go find a man, go sleep with somebody, but get y'all lives together and whatnot, Because it seemed like everyone wants to just keep pushing moments because something bad happened to me, and now I don't even want to say a pity party, but it seems like, you just want to keep destroying, bad people. Like, come on. Oh man. I'm gonna try to say this as lightly as I can and whatnot. This new, this whole me, talking about, not saving these hoes. It seems like I'm about to push a new movement, and this is what's about to happen. we're about to start doing this. We're not saving Karens and we're not saving hoes anymore because this shit just got to stop. Like this is ridiculous and whatnot. You know how you. I'm not even sure if it's possible that you can sue on discrimination and whatnot. I didn't even know that was a thing and whatnot. But she's using the card. The simple fact is, because of her skin color and her being, a woman and whatnot. I get it. I definitely get it. There's been a lot of mistreating of, women all across the board. But to say, I lost my job because of this and that, I'm like, woman, please, you just need to go sit somewhere, go find yourself a good man, and just stay out of the light and whatnot. Just you need to get your life together and whatnot. The whole thing, because this is fucking ridiculous. Like it really is and whatnot. So I don't know what you're trying to justify, other than the simple fact to me, if this is the same Karen we had to deal with the same, I think that had the, I'm hoping it might the one that she called them the black and whatnot. Like if this is the same person, I'm like, yo, you haven't even learned from your first mistake, like at all. So stop trying to put yourself in this limelight like you're trying to create a movement for no fucking reason, but you're doing it for your own self-pity and whatnot. Because why? You probably want to get paid more. You probably want this. You probably want that. But you're not getting what you want. And that's making you very upset. So that's the reason why you're doing all these wild, stupid, crazy, sick, vendetta, like wild shit just to like get everyone to get this attention on yourself. Like get a life. Go get your life together. Like literally just go get your life together. Because I don't even know what to say anymore. Because dealing with the same shit with the same person who wants to keep justifying things that you don't need to justify, knowing she's probably not going to win in court, But it's a very laughable story because to me she's very she wants to be this weird charismatic person and whatnot. But for all those who have the actual name Karen, I from E-Man, I just want to apologize to yourself because it's sad that we have to use a common name to turn it now into slang. Now, when everyone hears the word Karen, now everyone's going to start losing their mind and whatnot. It's just very sad that people's actions are ruining good people's names and whatnot for no reason. And what I mean by that, basically, using a common name, and now we're going to find this in the Black Urban Dictionary, whatnot. And when it says Karen, it probably going to say, a disobedient, white European woman and whatnot. But that's a whole nother like story and whatnot. Do we need a disclaimer for that? I just need to make sure. Do we need one? Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know.
They don't need no disclaimer.
Yeah, no.
Not for the Karens anyway.
Oh, okay. Right. Sorry. So this is what so E-Man now has a new PSA. We ain't saving no Karens and we're not saving no hoes. So it's the no save hoes movement and whatnot. Yes,
Laura.
No, we're not saving them. Don't save them. All right. Just like Project Pack said, we can't be saving these hoes out here, man. What's wrong with us? We can't and whatnot. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go put it on the shirt and whatnot. That's what I'm about to do.
My goodness.
We're going to have to make sure this movement moves down pretty well. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm doing. That's what we doing. That's what we doing. So yeah. So
all right. Well, thank you for that point. And for me, this is very cut and dry. The hypocrisy of the entire thing is fucking laughable. She is suing her ex-employer for discrimination. The fucking hypocrisy is too loud for the room, guys. She's suing them for discrimination. The very thing that she got fired for herself. So just so you understand, just before I make my point, I want to read something. This is the actual terminology she used in the phone call to the police, she says, I'm in the ramble and there's a man, African American. He's got a bicycle helmet. He's recording me and threatening me and my dog. That's what she told the emergency dispatcher. Okay. And then so during that time, the bird watcher, he's not Christian Cooper. He does not come closer to her. He remained calm. He just continues videotaping. And she actually says, I'm sorry, I can't hear. Are you there? I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. Guys, that kind of terminology could have very well had that situation ending with Christian Cooper dead. Okay, because we all know what we face in this country as far as the police and Black people. Okay, she used terminology that could have purposely ended with that man losing his life.
Facts.
So I have no fucking empathy for her in any way whatsoever about losing her job. I have no empathy for her being called a Karen. It's that simple. At the end of the day, what this showcases is two things. One, she didn't learn a fucking thing from this incident. And two, not only was her racism at play, but her privilege is at play. She thinks she actually has the audacity, the fucking unmitigated gall to sue her ex-employer for discrimination when it was the very reason she was fired in the first place.
Right.
I just can't. I'm sorry, but my mind can't wrap around this shit because, bruh, really?
Why you think I said we can't be saving hoes? Like,
listen,
if
it were another reason, I might be able to comprehend it better. But for discrimination, and she cited her race and her gender, when the very act that got her in this position was because she was being racist towards a Black man, is completely baffling to me. Like, this shit is completely, I don't know that if I were the judge on this case, that I could actually look her in her face during the trial, because I would have to recuse myself as the judge because of how fucking stupid that entire situation and how ridiculous it is. It speaks to her racism. It speaks to her privilege. It speaks to the fact she hasn't learned a goddamn thing from this incident. Nothing. She learned absolutely nothing. She did not come to the realization that what she did was put that man in very true and mortal danger. She did not learn that what she did was racist and ridiculous. And then furthermore, she is showcasing her privilege, or at least her perceived privilege, by actually having the audacity to sue her ex-employer. It's ridiculous. But you know what it is? It is a great example of people choosing and electing to live within a box, to live within their comfort zone. This is an example of her feeling so privileged that she could get away with this bullshit. She's so comfortable with the privilege that she has that she had the audacity to do this. Most people would try to lay fucking quiet so that enough time goes by where perhaps they can try to apply for another job somewhere.
Exactly.
Not her.
Smart thing for her to do.
Not her. She don't need to do that because I'm a white woman in America and I say I've been wrong, so I've been wrong. That has to be what she's thinking, because what the fuck? Anyone else would be laying quiet, trying to let this shit blow over so that they can apply somewhere else.
Right. Yep.
And you see why she needs sex in her life? You see why, right? You see
No,
why.
man, that, you know what? Fuck that. She needs a reality check. She needs to be woken up to the severity of what she's done. And to Pat's point, that's not going to happen when the victim, Christian Cooper, is fucking caping for her. And it's not that nothing good comes from him caping for her.
None.
She doesn't learn her
And stop
lesson.
laughing.
There's no, if he had just even tiny bit of firmness in this regard, and that's for lack of a better term. But if he stood his ground on this shit and said, no, I want to file, charges for defamation of character and etc. If he had any gumption from that perspective, that would actually be helpful to this situation, because perhaps she would learn something. But as a result of that, she has not. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. It's ridiculous. It's hypocrisy at its best. It's privilege at its best. It's her not learning her fucking lesson and remaining a racist at its best. It's that simple. There's no other way to sum this up, in my opinion. And so if I have to answer the specific question of why is Central Park Karen suing a company for firing her based on her racist behavior, it's because she didn't learn a fucking thing. She's still a racist, and she feels she has the privilege and ability to do so. Not to mention, Christian Cooper has caped for her, when instead he should have been taking things to the full extent he could. And yes, I am saying what I think he should have done, even though I'm not the victim, because you know why? I am a victim, just like every other Black person who has to deal with situations like these on a regular fucking basis. The entire Black community is a victim. And when we have the opportunity to fight back, we should fucking take it on behalf of every one of us that don't have that ability anymore, because they're not above ground.
That's right.
She did it because she could. She did it because he allowed it. She did it because she believes in her heart of hearts she has that privilege as a white woman in America. And I'm not saying that all white women are bad. Let me clarify this. I'm not saying all of anyone are bad, because that would make me no better than the people who are doing the oppressing. I have very many friends of all different races, creeds, ethnicities, nationalities. I want to be clear about that. However, this woman is clearly an example of a white woman in America who is under the impression that her privilege will allow her to operate with impunity. That's what this is about.
Yep.
Don't
That's
save
simple.
her. She don't want to be saved. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Don't save her.
You
Yeah,
are
pretty much.
She don't want
I
to
mean,
be
pretty
saved.
much
Don't
fuck her
save
and fuck everyone
You don't
like
wanna
her.
be
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Exactly right. Yeah, this is unacceptable for me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's no way to sugarcoat any fucking thing about it. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion that she would even do such a thing after being fired, where you would think most people would try to be laying low and staying quiet. The fact that she isn't just proves her comfort level as far as being able to get her fucking way. It's ridiculous. It's unacceptable. I hope not only that she's ruled against, but she's made to pay the lawyer fees of the firm. That's what I hope. I hope she's ruled against, she's made to pay the lawyer fees of the firm, and the fucking city decides to sue her for wasting the police's time when they could have been out saving someone else. That's what I hope for. She needs to learn a lesson she clearly didn't learn.
She might learn one day. She gonna learn one day.
Don't save her.
Hopefully, but
she don't want to be safe.
It's so crazy.
Like
but before we move on to the next subject, did you fellas have anything else you wanted to throw in there?
Yeah, there is one more thing I had to throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't save her. She don't want to be safe.
I should have seen that one coming.
You talking about these Ku Klux Karens out here? That's
there exactly. You need to. You may need to copyright that PAT Ku Klux.
Now you know it's funny though. I didn't come up with that term though. I saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somebody. I'm subscribed to on YouTube. He came up with the term. So
okay.
I just kind of
like it.
Yeah, I mean it's a perfect description of these women. You know.
Absolutely, especially this one.
Yep.
This is a perfect example. So, all right, fellas. So, moving on to the final topic of the evening. It is Eric Boykins. For those of you who do not know who Eric Boykins is, it is definitely a hot topic, not just in the Black community, but in general recently, in which a photo of white cops posing with a smiling Black man as if he was some kind of animal trophy kill has surfaced recently. And I'm just going to read a little bit from this article that is actually on US Newsweek. So, you know, those of you who don't know the story can get some more information. The title of the article is Photo of White Cops Posing with Smiling Black Suspect Sparks Outrage. It's a trophy. So a photo, and this is directly from the article, a photo of a group of armed white police officers surrounding a detained Black suspect has sparked a backlash on social media. The photo depicted Eric Boykin, a suspect in a bank robbery in Prentiss, a small town in Mississippi's Jefferson Davis County. Investigator Richard Browning of the Prentiss Police Department told the station that Boykin of Gulfport entered the Hancock Bank armed with a handgun and robbed it. He fled the scene, but was captured on Tuesday in a wooded area around 600 yards from the bank after a manhunt involving multiple law enforcement agencies, including the ATF, FBI, Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, and the Mississippi Department of Corrections. So in the photo, Boykin, who is shirtless, is seen smiling on the ground with his arms behind his back with 4 white officers and 2 dogs. And for those of you who don't know, the photo looks just like the type of photo that hunters take in a safari after they've caught their kill and are taking kind of like the trophy photo. So if you haven't seen the photo, please get out and take a look because it is definitely the most pertinent piece to this story. So the official question that we're going to discuss is, why would 4 white cops pose in a photo with a Black man handcuffed on the ground? So we're going to actually throw this to E-Man to start us off. What say you, sir?
All right. So, all right. So, the best way to start this off, you know, is basically the slave catching the nigga. Basically, that's what it looks like to me, you know. And I'm not too sure you guys know this because I watch a whole lot of different shows, and one of my favorite shows off Discovery ID used to been I Almost Got Away with It. So those, you know, guys who went to prison, who, you know, whatever they did, they had a crime, he broke out, a prison, or they escaped from prison, and they were out on the lam until they got caught again, and many police officers sometimes would take pictures as prizes, because depending on what the level that person towards, like, whatever state, or that whatever, I don't even know what they call it, like the level of, like, of whatever they're ranked towards this crime, or like how they see him on, I forget the name of it, but basically what their ranking is based upon what they've done towards being on the most wanted list and whatnot. But they take pictures as prizes, and in this case, it seems like this dude must have been a notorious bank robber and whatnot, because nobody takes pictures with non-celebrity people. I've never seen that before. When you really, it was like what, 4 or 5 officers in the picture, so it seemed like this dude must be known in Mississippi and whatnot. One of the most poorest, gumpest areas in the U.S. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it just looked very laughable to me, because when I saw the picture, I laughed and whatnot. It just seemed like be like, ha ha, we caught you, nigga. That's what it seemed. What the type of energy that the photo displayed. And I never got a chance to even read the story, and I really probably didn't want to read it, because it just seems it's just one of those stories that's gonna be, it just looks bad, and many people. And here's a good fun fact and whatnot. I'm not too sure many people know that that police officers are actually were actually part of the KKK. There still are, just putting it out there, only because the simple fact they were the people who were the slave catchers.
Oh, absolutely. That's what happened to, the case of the 3 civil rights workers that were killed in Mississippi. I think it was in 1962 or 1963, but the 3 civil rights workers who went down there, it was 2 white men and 1 black guy, and they went down there to register people to vote, and they were actually pulled over by the sheriff's department, who had actually called the KKK because they were members, to follow them so that they can pull the 3 civil rights workers over and kill them. And it was the cops that facilitated that. It was the deaths of, and I want to make sure that I clear it, because that was a serious situation. But it was in 1964, and it was the investigation of the murder of Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner. Those were the 3 victims' names. And it was perpetrated by the sheriff's department, who were members of the Ku Klux Klan.
And this is the reason why, us, what I mean, us more, those who are, who are indigenous and black and whatnot, have issues with police officers when they pull us over, because we know the history behind, these, I don't like to say jobs, I don't want to say career, but these constraints, I'll put it like that, make it much more, so I don't have to be too formal about it. But this is and it's never going to change and whatnot. It doesn't matter who's behind that uniform, because remember, a uniform can be taken off. It's a piece of fabric that distinguish you, or in this case, I like to use the word discrimination, because the origin of the word discrimination means distinguish, to basically know what group you are a part of and whatnot, like, we know who athletes are, because, there's certain things that distinguish them being athletes, just like a police officer firemen, so on and so forth, you know? And this is like sick. Just like, I don't know, like what was going through your mind when not just because you caught a bank robber, because it seemed like he must have been a very notorious bank robber, like I've already stated before, but what was going through your mind? Like, all was like, oh yeah, let's still take a photo, you know, we can go put this on our wall and whatnot, you know. But then then those type of people would say, you know, maybe I have a black friend. Oh no, I'm not racist. Oh, what are you talking about? You know, was just for work, you know? See, it's those little guilt phrases that everyone catches themselves in. And it's one of those things where I'm like, damn, did you really had to take the picture? Why couldn't you just put them in and whatnot? And they did the same shit. No, they didn't do the same shit to that white dude who burned that church in Charleston, South Carolina. They let the fool go to Burger King and whatnot, get something to eat. I don't know what's even worse. You know, they let the man eat something and whatnot. You know, you already know when you definitely go to jail and whatnot, once you get signed in, you definitely get a meal and whatnot. But literally, you know? And and my question is, did those officers take a picture of the, you know, that dude who burned down that church and supposedly, you know, and
that wasn't he didn't burn down the church. That's the one that went inside and killed 9 people.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
No, you're fine.
Oh.
Yeah, the dude that they got the Burger King for, he walked into a church and he killed 9 people that were in there in prayer circle.
But y'all let that man go get my man. Let me show you so crazy. That situation, that man did something so wrong. He went to the place where you can have it your way and whatnot. You know? Yeah, I use a reference, you know, from the commercial and whatnot. But yeah.
That wasn't even about the Burger King itself. It was about sending the message. That was, I mean, we're talking about South Carolina, which unfortunately is a known racist state. And and to me, that wasn't so much about him actually getting something to eat about as much as it was about sending the message that we're going to take this white suspect to get something to eat, even though we know he just killed 9 black people. They were sending a message. That's what I took from that. They were sending a message that, yeah, we don't really care that he just killed 9 black people. We're going to take this white suspect to get something to eat. That was sending a message. People want to say, oh, it was just in poor taste. He was hungry. They shouldn't have did it. That's bullshit. There are no cut cards. Oh, not with me. I know a message when I see one, when I hear one. That's exactly what that was.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Well. Yeah, I mean, because when you go to jail, once you get checked in, you definitely get a meal. So I don't know. That's why I was like, yeah. It was like, so it's, you know, and now going back, you know, back to this thing towards, you know, with this whole photo thing, like, what was the big prize at the end of the day? You know, now you got people speculating, you guys, as a collective, you know, unit itself and whatnot, you know? Yeah. I don't know why people make the decisions what they make. And you know, I'm gonna use the word, you know, accountability, you know, that Nia Angel loves to use, but if we're gonna call police officers, firemen, you know, all these blue collar workers and whatnot that we're supposed to keep holding to a, you know, a good accountability and whatnot, and they drop the ball, like, what are we supposed to do now? You know, because I tell everyone it's better to defend you with yourself versus as dealing with these so-called, you know, slave catchers and whatnot. That's what I call them. I hate calling them police officers. They're slave catchers. That's what the origin of what they are. It's hard for me saying the word police. It really is, because when I say it, I have like a disgust taste in my mouth. Like I want to just spit out what I just said in my mouth. Be
Yeah,
like,
we just call them race soldiers, and slave patrol, because that's where they come from. Slave patrol.
Yeah, that's where they come from, and that's all everyone. People forget about the origins of everything, but they want to talk about how modern everything is. I'm like, nah, you know.
Oh no, some people don't forget. They know.
There's people who know, but there's a good collective few that just don't want to know. You know, that's the that's the thing. Because I'm like, if we're gonna keep calling people, because this whole thing about the whole when they were pushing the Blue Lives Matter shit and all that stuff, and how we should be respecting police officers, but if we have police officers doing that, taking pictures, because they caught a prize and whatnot. What do you want me to call them then? But then we're going to use the narrative. Well, not every cop is bad. I'm like, of course, not every cop is bad. But if you want to talk about your group, you know what I'm saying? They just made your group of people look bad. So what are you going to do to clear that up? And many people just don't know. This is where all these weird stigmas come from, not just all certain things that we like, I'm going to say do or say, but this is where, people get confused about everything that's supposed to be right, what is wrong. And I don't even know what else to say. Like, it's to the sense of like, man, like, this is what we're doing, because this is what we're doing. That's what's really going on there. So, I'm gonna just leave it as that. I'm not even going. I'm not going to speak no more on this because I wasn't bothered, but it was the simple fact is like we're still doing this.
Right. Okay. Understandable, sir. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here, and I'm going to start by answering the official question. Why would 4 white cops pose in a photo with a black man handcuffed on the ground? I'm going to tell you why. Because they fucking can. They did it because they can, and they know that it is not going to bring any significant repercussions because they're in fucking Mississippi. It's still extremely racist down there in the Delta. Okay. There are certain states in the United States that are still extremely racist, even in 2021. South Carolina, West Virginia, Mississippi, and some of the middle redneck states are really, really racist still. And that's because there aren't going to be any repercussions in their mind, at least any significant repercussions for their actions. That's still the mentality that they live in.
Before you say, I don't want to cut you off now, Angel. I hate to even call West Virginia a fucking state. It is the west side of Virginia. They need to get that shit correct. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna let you continue. I just had to get that out there because I'm tired of people calling West Virginia a state. That's the damn west side of Virginia and whatnot. Get it right,
well,
please.
It is drastically different from the other parts of Virginia.
Now it is.
Normal Virginia
now it is.
No. I get what you're saying, but Virginia that's closer to the DC and Maryland areas, like the state of Virginia, especially the areas that are part of the DMV, those are drastically different environments than what you're going to find in West Virginia. West Virginia has a feel. It has an old country redneck racism feel to it, right? I don't even like driving through West Virginia, whereas you do not get a similar feeling when you're in other parts of Virginia, and especially the parts that are considered part of the DMV, Arlington, Fairfax, some of those places in Virginia, Alexandria, even Richmond has a Southern feel to it, but is not as blatantly racist as West Virginia. So, but at any rate, there are certain states within the United States where there is still a lot of blatant racism, where they're not even really bothering to take the time to pretend as if there's been progression there. Prime example, the reason that the cops felt so comfortable escorting Dylan Roof, and I generally don't like to remember the names of murderers, but since he was brought up, I wanted to mention that because he's a despicable human being. But that explains why they were even comfortable doing that. They were sending a message. So were these police officers. The reason that they did it is because in their minds, they could and get away with it without little consequence. And it is truly how they felt about capturing that black man. You know, at the end of the day, we have to face a harsh truth in America. And the truth is, there is no such thing as blanket equality in the United States, period. There just isn't. And as much as people want to say, there are some good cops, there are some good cops. You know what? Every fucking time a bad cop does something and a good cop doesn't call them out, he's become a bad cop. Because it's the police's responsibility
Shots fired.
to call them out. It is the police responsibility to uphold the law regardless of who's committing the crime.
Shots fired.
So every time they see one of their brethren committing a crime and they don't speak against it, or they see one of their brethren committing an atrocity and they don't do anything to stop it, they are no longer a good cop. And that's what people have to understand. They're a fucking fraternity. They're a gang. That's what the police are. They're a fraternity. They're a gang. I'm not saying that every single police officer goes out there with the intent of mistreating the people. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I know there are some police officers who would step up if they saw another cop doing something wrong. In fact, there was an example of one in the DMV area. I believe he was out of Baltimore County a few years ago, who did report on some of his brethren. He ended up dead. May he rest in peace. He ended up dead. He was actually the cousin of someone that I know. And I hope that his family has peace. But he ended up being killed. And the reality of it is, there aren't enough police officers who are willing to stand up against their brethren when they do something wrong to say that there are more good cops than bad. That's not the case. And the reason these cops took this photo is because they were more than comfortable doing so. They're in fucking Mississippi. And people can act like the country has progressed so much. There has been some progression. There have been some who have opened their eyes, but there are still plenty who live in that box and who choose to pretend like racism isn't a thing. And then there are others who are not living in the box. They're just blatant with their shit. And that's exactly what happened here. These cops did this because they could. Some people have asked the question, why was the black man smiling? He robbed a fucking bank in 2021. Who knows what his mental health is? The fact that he thought he could get away with robbing a bank speaks to and I'm not making an excuse for the black man. He's guilty of robbing the bank. I'm not making an excuse for his behavior, but he robbed the bank in 2021 and tried to get away with it. That's not even a fucking thing anymore. So who knows why he was smiling in the photograph?
Banks don't even got money.
The point. People are going to try to use the fact that he was smiling in the photograph to say, oh, it's okay because he was smiling. If it was really a problem, he wouldn't have been smiling. That's bullshit.
He could have been fearing for his life, to be honest.
Exactly.
Oh
we don't know what the situation was. We don't know that those cops didn't tell him, hey, nigger, smile. We don't know.
Yep.
We weren't there. But the point of the matter is, it doesn't excuse the behavior of the cops. It doesn't excuse the fact that they felt fucking comfortable doing it in 2021. And it doesn't excuse the fact that the overall problem, the high level problem, the overarching problem is that there are police officers who look at the people like a fucking trophy to hunt, a game to hunt, an animal to hunt, especially black people. Police are supposed to protect and serve. They work for us. That's what we have to remember as a
That's right.
society. Police work for us. They are supposed to work for us. Their responsibility, the oath that they swear, is to protect and serve the people.
Right.
I think a lot of people has really forgotten what power we have and whatnot. I think people keep forgetting, all your police officers, your firemen. I don't want to use the word educated, but your schools and everything like that. They're all run by your taxes that get pulled out of your checks.
Our tax dollars.
I'll put it like this. I went to Job Corps. All right, I went to Job Corps and everything. A lot of people don't know what Job Corps is, but it's an alternative trade school and whatnot. So you can definitely live there, or you don't have to live there. My rebellious, obedient high school ass had to go to Job Corps because I didn't know what I wanted to do right after I graduated and whatnot. But your federal tax dollars go into that. And because of that, I actually didn't have to pay for my driver's license because I was at Job Corps, It's because those tax dollars paid it for me. And I had all the right places. I had all the right people to, get something for free, which it wasn't for free because somebody else was paying it, for me to obtain that, So people got to really understand, what you're paying for, you're not getting what you want because we're not understanding what power we have to drive behind this. Another good example, I'm in education. I've been educated for quite some time, Many people don't even know that your property taxes is what helps run your public schools and whatnot. So if you cared so much about your child's education, you can definitely make it better. Guess what? You choose not to and whatnot.
But when it comes to the police force, the people only have so much ability because of things like police unions and etc.
Right.
And trust me, I'm not making an excuse. I'm not saying that we, the people, should not stand up and say, no, we don't accept this. Of course we do. And of course we should. And that's what we do when we go out and march and protest and etc. But we have to understand the overall issue. The police are a separate entity for all intents and purposes. Yes, they are funded by tax-paying dollars, but we only have so much control or input that they're going to accept. Because at the end of the day, they're not trained to look at the people as the core mission. They're trained to look at the people as the enemy. And that's part of the problem. It's in their training. It's in their funding. It's in these fucking these unions. Every time a situation happens, the police union is quick to cover the asses of their own, which I understand that's part of the reason for their existence. But if they were truly good people, what they would be trying to do is bring justice for those people who make them look bad, who are not protecting and serving the people. The reality of it is they commit these crimes. They do these things because they know they are not going to face appropriate consequences. It's that fucking simple. I mean, look at the situation we had here in Dallas. What was it, last year or the year before that, where the police officer went into the wrong apartment and killed that man. Okay. She claimed she thought she was in her apartment.
Oh, you talking about what happened to Botham John?
Yes, exactly. Botham John was sitting in his apartment and was killed by a police officer who went into the wrong apartment and started shooting. I mean, the reality of it is, the situation is, they know that they are not going to face any kind of punishment for certain things. Do you think she would have accidentally ran into the apartment of a white person?
Nope.
No. The reality of it is the police do not look at us as their mission. They do not, even though they swear that oath to protect and serve, they don't take that part of it seriously. What they're getting out of it is the opportunity to rule over people. And that's unfortunate.
They don't even get paid that much, to really be honest. So I don't know how much ruling you can really do. Is it because you got a badge and a gun and
Well, because they have so-called
you're
authority.
yeah, so-called authority, you're just enforcing
They're enforcing their, so-called authority on us
authority, not your will,
regular
but
people.
yeah, you
Meant them. They
so
knew they could get away with it, and they did what they wanted to do because they did not believe and I'm willing to bet probably still do not believe they're going to face any serious consequences for it. That's my
nah,
point.
they're not really gonna. There's it's really weird and hard because I put it like this. DC to me has the by far the worst police officers in the motherfucking world, and that's why I feel like DC has gotten even worse and whatnot. You know, but I feel like you know I've seen and heard crazy stories out in DC, and all of them are all factually true, and 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 I'm not going to just use. I already know Mississippi, their shit's run down also too, but I'm also going to use another place that's also run down too. Like it's really fucking insane and whatnot. I even go down to Montgomery County and whatnot. You know, I feel like the officers are being quite lazy and whatnot. They always keep complaining about people being drunk and outside and whatnot, but yet I don't see them do anything about it but to keep enforcing worse parking laws and keep removing parking and whatnot, but don't do what you're supposed to do and whatnot. Like we ask everyone to do a job, but then you want to half-ass your job. But for me, if you want me to do my job, you want me to do my job at 110%. No questions asked. If I don't do mine and whatnot, me being an educator, you quick to curse me out when when your kid don't get the grade they're supposed to get and whatnot. You see, like this is not even a catch-22. This is the BS that we deal with every single day and everyone. It's the same authority. You feel like your authority at what you do is higher than mine and whatnot. You see that this issue won't change until we as people get this shit together and whatnot. Like we gotta basically put these slave catchers in their places. Like we definitely have to. Yeah. But it's very crazy when we start doing that. This is where all these crazy and weird videos hit the internet, you know, and you actually get to see that real person in their real true self without that uniform. Because I always state, you can always hide someone's personality when you have some type of uniform on. Yeah. Like you can cause the most damage and whatnot. Like, and here comes like, certain examples and whatnot, In the corporate world, everyone wears a suit and a tie and whatnot. In the sports world, everyone wears sweatpants, sweatshirts, or anything that is fitness and whatnot. You know, you know. Those who are very artistic, they go about something different, but they're using a computer. They're using certain things, what an artist needs for that type of job and whatnot. For those, those who throw out the trash and whatnot, they wear a jumpsuit and whatnot to know that that they're dumping the trash. That's how you see them as. But once they take that off, what are you going to say as a person? Do you see what's in front of you? That's the issues that we got, and and this is what the same issues are going to be keep having with the police officers. But yeah, but that's just my extra take on this. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, sir. And so we're going to go ahead and throw this to you, PAT, to wrap us up. Just to reiterate really quickly, the question is, why would 4 white cops pose in a photo with a black man handcuffed on the ground? What say you, sir?
Okay, so I agree with you that they did this because they can. I mean, it's really that simple and straightforward because they can do that. I also agree with you in regards to sending a message. You know, the whole thing with Dylan Roof and how those officers, well, those race soldiers took Dylan Roof, a white domestic terrorist, to Burger King. Again, this goes back to when I mentioned whiteness being valued or protecting whiteness. That's really what it all boils down to. So for me, this when we're talking about this subject right here, this photo, this is simple. This photo is out there because there is a race war. Plain and simple. We're in a race war. Now, when people hear me say race war, or even the word war on its own, they think I'm being a bit too extreme. But in all actuality, I'm not. I'm not being extreme at all. If we look at the definition of the word war, it is defined as a state of hostility, conflict, or antagonism. When we're living in a system of racism / white supremacy, a system of injustice, I mean, isn't that a state of hostility, conflict, or antagonism? Since hundreds of years ago, when Black people were put onto slave ships and brought to America against their own free will. Hundreds of years ago, when colonizers came to America and murdered and enslaved millions of Native Americans and stole this very land that we're on today. I mean, we could run down the list. Slavery, the Black codes, segregation, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration. For example, the war on drugs and the 94 crime bill, miseducation in the school system, gentrification, lack of access to wealth. We can look no further than the racial wealth gap and police brutality. All of that is a race war, a war against Black people. We can't forget to mention the mainstream media. We can't forget to mention that also. We can't forget to mention the mainstream media, which is an apparatus that has made it their business to train the minds of the masses into buying into the demonization and degradation of Black people. So to go back to this police photo op with the bank robbery suspect, the photo was taken on purpose and media outlets covered it on purpose. The photo is egregious for obvious reasons. The apparent racism in it, showing the 4 white police officers, we're just going to call them race soldiers or slave patrol, as we said before, posing with a Black man handcuffed on the ground, along with dogs in the photo. As the title of the article says, big game hunt trophy photo. That's exactly what else comes to mind when you see a photo like this. This communicates to the masses that these 4 white men hunted and took down an animal. Ladies and gents, this is what a race war looks like. For those who just don't see the race war, I mean, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna have to believe that you're willfully ignorant. I'm just gonna have to believe that you're willfully ignorant at this point. Either that or you just don't care. And we already know what that means if you don't care. But between this photo and many of the atrocious things we have seen happen to Black people by overt racists and covert racists for centuries, decades to recent years, it's clear that it is open season on Black people. And I don't say this to scare anyone, because I believe now is not a time to live in fear. On the contrary, I think now is the time to fight back as best as we can. Because the truth The truth of the matter is the race war is not going to stop if we put our face in the sand or by cowering in fear and praying. We're not going to hope and pray our way out of oppression. I hate to say this, but we're just not going to hope and pray our way out of this. So for all you religious folk out there, I mean, and I'm gonna preach that because for all you religious folk out there, I hate to break it to you, but you know, we're not gonna hope and pray our way out of this one. You know, we're not gonna hope and pray to white Jesus
to a pastor all in like 2 or 3 minutes. I ain't gonna lie.
White Jesus ain't coming. You know, for those of you who believe in that bullshit. You know,
y'all see why I'm not religious though. So yeah.
White Jesus ain't coming to save nobody. You know, there is no white Jesus, but we know some of you are still asleep and, you know, you still believe in that nonsense. So all this hoping and praying, we're not going to hope and pray our way out of oppression. Let's just put that on the table. So for all you religious folk out there, stop all the hoping and praying and turning the other cheek and forgiving. Stop that bullshit because that's really just a coping mechanism. You're living in a fantasy world, and this is fucking real life. This is real fucking life, a real physical world, a physical realm that we deal with where you touch things and you feel things.
I agree.
So stop this turn the other cheek, and you know, hoping and praying, and you know, it's not gonna work. Flat out, it's not gonna work.
It's not going to work. We gotta stop it.
For the folks out there that really buy into that bullshit, stop it. Wake the fuck up and get routed and rooted into reality, into the real world, like grown adults. We're not fucking children. Children can play and believe in fantasy. When you are a grown up, when you are a grown adult, you are rooted and routed into the real world. And you have to deal with the real world on concrete terms. Straight up. So the only way to beat oppression on all levels is to fight oppression on all levels. And that can mean different things because everybody's going to fight differently. We all fight a different way. But the fact of the matter is you are going to have to fight it. You're not going to be able to pray your way out of it. I'm sorry, you were, and I'm really not sorry, but you are not going to pray your way out of it. It's that simple. So wake the fuck up, deal with the real world, and let's fight. That's what we got to do. If we want things to get better, we got to fight. Plain and simple.
I feel like PAT, your new ad lib should just be stop it. Just the way you say stop it.
Yeah, stop it. Like
I love it, sir. That's what you exactly what needs to be said. And let me just make it clear here. You know, here at the Good, the Bad, and the Truth, you know, we all support everyone living the lifestyle that best fits them. We want to make clear that we are not against religious folks. But these, again, are our opinions, and we are sharing them as they relate to us as individuals. Let me just say that, PAT, I felt everything you said. You know, I'm all for people having their religious beliefs, but action is what brings change.
Right.
Action is what brings change.
Right.
And so I could not agree with you more on that aspect. Like
Kwame Brown said, results.
Agree with that.
Right, action, definitely. And you know, I have nothing against religion in and of itself. For those who get that idea, no, that's not what this is about. But my thing is, we can't use that as some type of coping mechanism and a way to be a coward and to live in fear.
That's what
and to take us out of the real world. We still need to be in the real world and very much present in the real world. And we need to deal with the real world on concrete terms. You know, if you want to, you know, follow religion, if you follow religion, that's fine, you know, do that. But, you know, you have to deal with that on its own, you know, somewhere else. But when it comes to, you know, something as real as this, as the race war, as I've described already, it's going to be action straight up. Like there's no savior coming. There's no white savior coming. There's no savior, period, coming.
I need one more stop it.
You're the savior. We are the savior. That's it. You know, nobody's Sky Daddy's not coming. Like it ain't happening. Sky Daddy ain't coming from the sky, and he's not gonna.
I had to stop it right behind that. You should have just say Sky Daddy and just say stop it.
Like stop it, B.
Excellent.
Sky Daddy ain't coming.
Stuff. Yes, thank you for sharing, PAT. I wholeheartedly agree with the points that you made about action. It's absolutely required, and I think we definitely are on the same page, all three of us, in our points. In regards to why these cops have this level of comfortability to behave this way. I hope that we are able to reach folks and really have them take the time to stop and think about the nation that we live in. Because, I can't comfortably say this is a great nation because of the blatant injustices that we face, and that's unfortunate because, I do think America has a lot to offer. Equality is not one of them. It's not one of them. And that's sad. So, unless anyone has anything else they want to throw in there really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up.
Oh, I got one more thing before we head out. We're not saving no more hoes. That's the movement that's moving on. 2021. I got a lot of movements going on in 2021, by the way, and everything like that. So I got the whole no bra, no panties 2021 and beyond. And now we're not saving no more Karens, and we're not saving any of these hoes and whatnot. We're not. we got to do better. We're going to be better and do better. That is our goal for 2021.
Every time you say that, I immediately hear, "Don't save her."
You don't want to be saved. Don't save her. You don't want to be saved.
I immediately hear that song every time you say that. All right. Thank you, sir. To all of our listeners and supporters out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Please go ahead and travel over to YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate the heck out of you. We want to get those subscriptions up. We want to get this content shared. We're going to keep giving y'all the business, the great content, the great topics. And when you subscribe, you get those notifications every time we do.
That's right.
And of course, we could not end the episode without allowing Mr. PAT and our guy E-Man to throw out their contact information if you're in need of their services. So PAT, go ahead and do that plug, sir.
You already know, thepatchannel.com. You can go there, listen to music, read articles. My services are on there. I do the graphic design, illustration, anything you need help with in the creative realm, I got you. That's what content creation. That's what I do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. E-Man, go ahead and shoot that info, please.
Yo, E-Man. Woo Athletics. You can check me out on Instagram. Woo Athletics 56. All right. Woo, WOO, Athletics with an S, 56. Basically, I'm a personal trainer and a holistic, practitioner. All right. So whatever you need towards his fitness and sports and holistic healing, I'm your guy. Thank you.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. And until next time, peace.
Peace.